downstate where secrets hide. In Tampa Street, she seeks out lies. With a sharp eye, she'll reveal the truth. Justice calls and she pursues. From county jails to hallowed courts, she finds truth where they distort. Fearless heart and mind so keen, Sam unravels tangled seams. The truth is buried deep in files. Fairness is what they try to hide, but Sam prevails. She's got your back. With grit and grace, she never lacks. Uncover lies and play no games. From jails to halls where verdicts lay. Truth her compass, come what may. Footsteps echo in the night. She chases justice with the light. A warrior for justice for all. She won't stop when she hits a wall. Florida P.I.S.M. is her name. Uncover lies and play no games. From jails to halls where verdicts lay. Truth her compass, come what may.
Hello, hello, hello. Unmute yourself, Miss Tanika. Unmute yourself for me.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I knew you were a superhero. Do you have a cape? Do you have a theme song? I love it.
I made the theme song. I actually cut it off short. I need to edit it down so like it's not as long, but it took me so long to like make it. I just haven't had the will to go back and try to edit it.
That was amazing.
Thank you. It was so much fun. I have like 60 different versions of songs.
Wow.
I paid for like a month's subscription, so I'll share with you and then you can make your own song too.
Okay.
It's so fun. So hi, good evening, friends. Welcome to my channel. I'm Florida PI Sam. I am a licensed private investigator in Florida. I went to law school because I had a midlife crisis. I work on criminal defense cases, primarily for the indigent defense. And with me this evening is one of my favorite YouTubers, Miss Tanika 2 Cents. How are you, Tanika?
I'm well. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be with you again.
Yes, thank you so much for coming back. We're so glad to have you. I've had friends text me and say, "Oh, Tanika's coming back." Yes. And I want to say congratulations. Please share your good news with everyone.
Yes, Sugar Bear is being promoted to Big Brother officially November 1. We're still early yet, but you know, it's in the works.
So congratulations.
Thank
Does Sugar Bear understand that he's going to be a big brother?
We're piecing it together.
Okay.
Yes.
Up. So how old will he be when Sweet Pea is born?
So Sugar Bear will be 2 this summer in June. So not quite a year, or not quite 2.5. 2 years, 5. Okay.
Barry Adams says, Sam went to law school and became a PI. Tanika moved coast and had a second family. Barry chases geese around the yard.
I want to chase geese too.
Yeah, right?
Oh my
Right?
God.
Yeah, so we're super happy for Tanika. And again, I'd like to know what it is she eats, drinks, and uses on her skin. All
Oh
of
my
the
God.
things. The energy level you must have, woman. And you're up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I know this because my cat has me up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh.
So I go on, I go look for something to play so I can hopefully fall back asleep. And sometimes it's you that is up at 4 a.m.
Yes, it is true.
Well, tonight, let's say hi to our friends in the chat. Want to say a welcome back to Miss Amy Crew, who has been offline for a minute. We were talking, so funny because Alexis, my mod, is also a collaborator. As you know, she works with me on all the legal stuff. And we were talking about people we hadn't seen in a minute, and we were talking about Amy Crew.
I saw her last night. Yes, she's back.
Yeah, so she apparently goes off the grid. I don't know how well I would do with that. And we have Miss Kathy Smith and C. Morales, Barry Adams, of course, always here to contribute. Nina Robinson, welcome. It's nice to see you guys. My parents are missing. Cat Coco 6, hello, welcome. Okay, so we are here to talk about the death penalty. But there's a big but around it. We are not here to talk about the morality of the death penalty. We're not here to talk about whether you think or I think or anybody thinks we should still have the death penalty. We're here to talk about it factually. So it's a triggering topic, and if it's something that anyone is uncomfortable with, then I invite you to just come back for another stream or check out one of the previous videos I've done. Because we're not here to debate or insult or any of the things, right? We're just here to learn. This is learning with some entertainment thrown in. So, with that being said, Tanika, tell me about the case that you're interested in, and that you had mentioned to me in a chat, I think on one of my streams. You had said that you maybe wanted to talk about the death penalty, and I know you're covering the Florida case. So you want to tell everybody a little bit about that case?
Yes. So it is the murder of Jared Bridegan, who was a young father in Florida, in Jacksonville, who was murdered after dropping off his twin children to his ex-wife, Shayna Gardner's house. His 2-year-old daughter with his current wife was in the back seat. His wife was at home with their younger child, with an infant, and he goes out on date night every Wednesday with his kids, and he was dropping them off. Headed home, he found a tire in the road. He got out to move the tire so that he could go. The road narrowed, so he wasn't able to pass, and he was shot at point blank range and later died while his child was strapped in the back seat. Turns out that the gentleman who shot him was not very bright. They rarely are. He left fingerprints and identifying marks on the tire that remained in the street. Apparently there's a lot number. I'm not sure if it's the rim or the actual tire, but they were able to track it to a man named Henry Tenon. It turned out that Mr. Tenon was a tenant of Mario Saldana Fernandez, who is
the little music when you do.
Oh yeah,
say his name, you do
Mario.
Mario.
Yes, Saldana Fernandez. Cha-cha-cha. Imagine the salsa in the background.
Right.
So he's the current husband of the ex-wife of Jared. So it turns out eventually Mario was implicated, as well as Shayna. Shayna is the heiress of the Stampin' Up company, huge ML.
Yeah, I'd never heard of till
Yes.
this.
Me either. But when I
Okay,
say it to other
okay.
people, like my sister is crafty, she knew immediately what I was talking about.
Okay.
So, yeah, so she had fled to Washington with the twins to her parents' house. They brought her back. It's all on lovely body cam. And so they are now, she and her alleged estranged husband are facing the death penalty, and Mr. Tenen turned state evidence saying yes, Mario engaged him for murder in exchange for $150,000 to start a company. There was a check from Shayna's trust, which was controlled by Mario, that was written to Henry. So they're both looking at the death penalty. Her attorney is Jose Baez, who you might remember from Casey Anthony.
Sure.
And Julie Harper is the Julie Harper is on there. So I looked at her phone logs and visits, and Julie's been coming in. So I suspect that she'll be a witness for her. I know there are 2 phases to the trial when there's a death penalty. I can see who her death penalty attorney is. And then from there, I don't know what happens after. I mean, obviously she's got to be found guilty. And if she's found guilty, then what, yeah.
So, for anybody who is not familiar with those 2 names, Jose Baez represented Casey Anthony. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm like one of the only people on the planet, I think, that did not follow Casey Anthony. Like I've said before, I was actually moving to Miami to go to law school, and I was in IKEA with my mother. And my mom went and sat down on the couch and watched like the Casey Anthony verdict while I went through IKEA.
Seriously?
There were a whole bunch of people in the store that were just like gathered around a TV. And I've always been interested in sort of like Mindhunter, right? That book when it first came out, when we're like, you and I are similar in age. So it's like I was in high school-ish, right? So the profiling books, the stuff like that. Always interested in that. Was never a big true crime fan or follower. Didn't go to law school for criminal purposes. I took the classes because you have to take the classes. Never thought I'd work in criminal defense.
Wow.
Didn't want to work in criminal defense. And now here I am. And I think I have 5 death penalty cases currently. And I have 2 set for trial this year.
Wow.
So, and then the second name that you mentioned was Julie Harper, which for anyone who knows the Sarah Boone case, Julie Harper was the mental health expert that was utilized on Sarah's behalf, right?
Right. And she came in again. So she testified on her behalf that she had the battered spouse syndrome. But then also after Sarah was convicted, she had done another exam for her and participated in the pre-sentencing investigation. She testified during sentencing, like talked to her family members, her brother, etc., and compiled a report and came and spoke on Sarah's behalf or testified on her behalf.
Right. Barry again says Sam does more homework than that forensic psychologist. Well, thank you. If you saw the kind of work that went into today's stream, I would say you're right. Hi, Creative Minds, and welcome. Hi, Mel. Good to see you. Bookworm, welcome. Ms. King of Anything, welcome. Hello, hello. So yeah, Tanika, I had reached out to you because I'm in this. I do these. I have chopped most of my stuff up into series. So our current series is Judging the Jury. I like my alliteration. So
I'm a fan of alliteration as well. So
me
there.
too. I have to have it. Like we went in and changed all the thumbnails yesterday because of alliteration.
Nice.
I'm such a geek. I can't stand it. Hi, Tracy Hernandez. Welcome in. We're glad to have you. You recognize my voice. Oh, I might have been somewhere else on YouTube a couple of months ago. So Weird in this Judging the Jury is my current series, right? So I never fully end my series. I dip back in and out of them. So like there will be more forensic cellular stuff coming, right? I just don't like to bore people. But now we are going to talk about the mechanics, basically, of being on a death penalty jury and what that looks like. And so you sent me some questions, and we have woven those into our outline for tonight. Yes, Tracy, yes. I am well. Thank you so much. And Henry is here somewhere too. I appreciate you. Okay, so let's see. I do have things that I have prepared. So I thought we would start out with some fast facts. Is what a little more alliteration. Do you know how long a person a person has sat on death row before being exonerated in the state of Florida? Guess. Just
Ooh,
take a guess.
exonerated. 12 years. Ooh, 22 years. 40?
43.
No. And then
Yes.
exonerated?
Yes.
Wow.
And do you know how much money the state of Florida paid him?
$2 million?
Yep, that's it. $2 million. 43 years of his life, $2 million. Gentleman's name was Clifford Williams.
No.
43 years. Bookworm, welcome. Hello. I'm bouncing through screens, and we all know that is not my forte. So y'all are gonna have to just hang in with me here. Okay, so that was one of the most mind-blowing statistics that I found. Okay, so 23 states have totally abolished the death penalty. Governors in another 3 states have placed an indefinite moratorium, and at least 9 more states are actively considering abolishing.
Wow.
Right? In Florida would save $24 million per inmate sentenced to life without parole versus on death row. So it costs Florida taxpayers an estimated $90,000 more per year to house a death row inmate than a general population prisoner.
That surprises me. I thought it would be the other way. I thought it was less expensive if they're on death penalty.
No, it's more.
Okay. Wow.
It's more.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. So, we're gonna talk about Florida, you guys, because Tanika's case, the Jared Bridegan case, it's Shanna Gardner, right?
Yes.
Her name. So the Shanna Gardner Jared Bridegan case is Jacksonville, Florida, and we all know that I am in Florida, which is also where I went to law school and where I work. So we're talking about Florida, okay? I cannot speak to any other states unless there's a statistic in front of me. But we put this together. So Florida spends, so we couldn't actually find updated costs, which is kind of crazy. But as of 2010, which was 15 years ago, Florida spends an estimated $51 million annually on capital punishment.
Wow.
Right? Each execution in Florida is estimated to cost taxpayers $3.2 million. And some of the costs include the law enforcement, prosecution, courts, judges, corrections, and public defenders. And then the staffing costs for death row are $56,000 per year per inmate. And those are old stats. And we tried to find new ones. So how long, Tanika, do you think the national average is that someone spends on death row before their execution? What would you guess?
Well, I believe there's some built-in time because they get like a certain number of appeals, right? So it's not straight away. I would say on average, maybe 15 years.
You're close. Very close. On the national, it's 18.
Okay.
In Florida, it's 23.
Oh, what do you know what drives the difference?
According to our research, volume, the number of cases, the number of people, because you asked, your question was, once given the DP, what is the average time an inmate can expect to spend on death row? So the national average is 18, the Florida average is 23, and the time frame in Florida is longer because of the volume.
And the criteria recently changed, right? You don't have to
we're
have
gonna
any...
get into
Okay.
that. It's coming. I
Okay.
promise. It's coming. We got
Okay.
all the things. So let's see. I have some stuff to share, as a matter of fact. Let me see. Of course, this is not going to be... I need to go all the way back to slide number 1. Just close your eyes. Here we go.
I do it all the time. No, it's all good.
There we go. Hey, I'm getting better at it. I finally figured out how to like put this stuff in StreamYard, so I'm not flipping out into like... It's... yeah, I'm getting there. So whoops, let me go back. So Rex Deming, the Chief Assistant Public Defender of the 10th Judicial Circuit, brought the question, can Florida continue to afford the death penalty? He called for a moratorium because he said, we discovered that the most expensive, most time-consuming, and least cost-effective service we provided was representation in death penalty cases. And while I use the term least cost-effective, I am not talking about a philosophical debate over whether or not the state of Florida should have a death penalty. What I'm talking about is the economic stuff, which is, that's highly technical language right there. He estimated that Florida spends $51 million a year to impose and implement the death penalty rather than sending convicted first-degree murderers to prison for life without parole. And like I said, it is estimated that each execution costs taxpayers $24 million. In the past 30 years, Florida has executed an average of just over 2 people a year. At that rate, it would take 150 years to execute those people who are currently on death row. Can you imagine? And every year, more people are sentenced to death row than are actually executed. So at that rate, the backlog will never be eliminated.
Wow.
So he goes on to say, so you can ask, what if we just speed up the process? Wouldn't that help? Well, history is against us. If you go back to the entire history of the state of Florida, when we became a state in 1800s, the most executions that ever took place in the state of Florida in a single year was 11. So it would still take 35 years.
Wow.
Right? Okay, now I got us onto this screen. I don't know how to get us back off, but oh, there we go. Okay. And now I've lost my outline. So does that surprise you?
Yes. I think it's something I don't really think about, but I would, in my mind, I imagine like maybe 12 people waiting. I don't know. That seems a lot.
Yeah, it does, right? So I actually know one person on death row right now. He was a piece of work. And that's all I'm going to say about that right now.
Okay, fair.
Because I could go down a very deep rabbit hole with him, so I may do that. So, okay, you asked us how many persons have received the death penalty since the juror count changed. Okay, so you guys, this is some mathing, and we still don't have a clear answer because why? It's Florida. All right. So I can't give you an exact answer. So prior to 2017, you needed a majority of jurors. You didn't need all 12. You needed 7 or more. Okay. Which is scary. In 2017, you needed when the law changed in 2017, it went to unanimous, all 12. So then what happened, and I did not even know this, people who were convicted under the majority rule prior to 2017 were eligible for resentencing. So that just added to the backlog of things. So it was up to the prosecutor to determine whether to convert the sentence to life or to seat a new panel and do the penalty phase again. And then they would need all 12 in the penalty phase, which we're going to talk about, to convict. So we've got chaos, right?
Yes.
Are you with me here? So we've gone from you need 7 or more to nope, you need all 12 to now in 2023 8 of 12, which is what you asked. So now, if you are tried in Florida, you will be tried in front of 12 jurors, but you only need 8 to send you to the death chamber.
Wow. Now, if you're convicted of life, do you need only 8 or do you need all 12? Like if you're not facing the death penalty.
I think 8.
Okay.
I think it's 8.
Okay.
Because well, so we have two phases, right? So the first phase is, are you guilty or are you innocent? Right?
Right.
So if you're guilty, then you move on to phase 2, which here we call the penalty phase. So the first phase is guilt or innocence. The jury finds you innocent, you go home. If they find you guilty, you proceed to the second phase. You have the same jury, and now we're gonna talk about mitigation. This is whether mitigation and aggravation, whether or not you go to the death chamber. And I've got all the details. We're just gonna work our way to them. So you had also asked if any human rights advocate groups, if they were concerned about the change from 12 to 8, would the ACLU step in and help fund an appeal? And you've got some other questions about cost benefit analysis. So I'm going to show you guys right now. I'm going to attempt to show you my next slide. Oh, I just love this. All right. Look at that. So seamless.
Oh, wow. Look at you cooking with gas.
Listen, it takes a lot to get here. So much more than it really should. So okay, Alexis is saying yes, you need all 12. You need all 12 to convict of a capital crime. It's phase 2 needs 8. So
okay.
So yeah. I'm not great with numbers. Hi, Sugar Bear, sir. So here we've got, this is from the Death Penalty Information Center, and it shows nationwide. Let me see. I can't even see it. I need to deal with my screen situation because either I see the chat or I see this, or you know what I mean? I'm going to let Alexis handle chat so that I can look at what we're looking at, because I can't see. So this sheet, or this chart, shows you the race of the defendants executed. Oh my God, how is that possible? My computer's about to sleep because it's not charging, but it's plugged in. Are you kidding me?
Is it the wall source?
It might be, which is actually underneath me. Hold, please. I shall return.
Okay, we'll be here. We're looking at these numbers. So race of defendants executed, the orange part, 55.7 are white. I'm surprised at that.
Right. So the one on the left is the race of the defendants executed, which more whites, 898. Am I reading that right?
Can you ground us a little bit? What time period is this? Is this like per year?
So 1976 is when this started. Okay. So all the way to the, I'm on a screen, like you can see me pointing at it. I will figure this out one day. So all the way to the left of the chart, all the way on your left is 1976. All the way to your right is 2025. So thus far we've had 5. So let's see. This is Florida. And let me go to the next page. Alexa's probably losing her mind because I'm like. So here's a comparison of Florida execution totals since 1976. So you can see there were years where there were 0.
Right.
Wow. That's surprising. Does that surprise you?
Yes.
I'm kind of surprised by this. So 87, 88, 89, 91.
Was there ever a moratorium? Do you know? Whoa.
I don't know. I know that, for example, a case that I have, which was, well, it's over now, but a case that I was a part of trying in 2016 was a 2011 case. And when they indicted him in 2012, it was initially a death penalty case. And the state decided to take it off the table because by the time we were coming up for trial, which was in 2016, because I guess it was getting ready, the legislature was fighting it out again, which led to the change in 2017. So they were stacking up, So I think some, I think some of it, I think some of the years were in fact, were because of the legislature. Well, thank you guys for saying I'm smart. I appreciate that.
Barry's saying that the population was changing. It was different in the 80s than it was in the
Okay.
90s.
Okay, yep, here we go. Florida grew a lot. It was very different in the 80s than it was in the 90s and in the 2000s, the 10s, and the 20s. That's a really good point. Yeah, okay. See, you can tell you and Barry are much more statistically minded than I think I am. So the population demographics and who they are and where they were was very different in 77 than it is in 2023. It was like half the size in 77. Okay, good. All right. It's a group effort here. Let me see if there's more to this. Okay, so this is the last page of the Florida statistics, and I already told you some of those. So we've had 105 since 1976. Number before 1976 may include federal and military is 347. There's currently 283 on death row. Women, there's 1. Number of innocent people freed from death row, 30. Number of clemency, 6.
And clemency is when the governor steps in? Okay.
Can a defendant get death for a felony in which she was not responsible for the murder? Yes. It's called the principal theory. That's what Shanna is looking at.
Yep.
So for every 8.2 people executed in the United States in the modern era of the death penalty, 1 person on death row has been exonerated. So
that's scary because I'd like to think, I don't know, that the jury gets it right, but obviously that's not always the case. No. Amy is saying that there was a time when the Supreme Court outlawed.
Yeah, between 72 and 76. That's correct. So Mel, governor or president, I think you're referring to clemency. And so the government can do it at the state level. Presidents, honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. I would imagine the president could. Okay, Bookworm, welcome and thank you for your help. President can only intervene in federal cases, not state. Okay, good to know. I'm learning. All right. So let's see. Where am I? Okay. So in Florida, there are 3, we've got 3 categories of capital crimes. So one is going to be first degree murder, which probably we could just go ahead and say since I've said death 500 times. Capital drug trafficking and capital battery under a child under the age of 12. So let's see, I have a slide for that as well.
Wait, does that mean a child under the age of 12 was convicted and got the death penalty?
No, so if somebody committed that sort of battery on somebody under the age of 12, that's considered a capital offense.
Gotcha.
So hold on, I think I have a thing for this too. Let's go to the next one. Yeah. So this is the homicide. So any of those, and then drug trafficking, and it lists all the different drugs, like here on the next page. We're going to put everything over on Patreon in case anybody wants to go through all this, but this is the Florida statute. And it enumerates what constitutes murder, and then also the felonies that would make you a principal as well. Oh, whoops, I didn't mean to hide that. Where did Alexis put that back up?
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding this. I'm looking at my big screen, so I'm turned this way. But the unlawful unaliving of a human being when perpetuated by an act imminently dangerous to another. And then so the trafficking offense. If someone dies while there's a trafficking offense going on, you're eligible for the DP. Am I understanding that?
Yeah.
Arson, robbery, burglary, kidnapping, escape. Okay.
So you have aggravated child abuse, which is in your case, right?
Yes, because the 2-year-old was present.
Exactly. So, okay. Barry says, I went to a SUNY school and have lots of friends in New York, but you're my only friend in the state of New York here now. Do they have the DP? They did. Patterson was going to nix it. Cuomo was silent.
I don't know. Hochul is the new governor. That's a good question. I'm not sure. There haven't been any cases since I've been here, because otherwise I'd know for sure, but I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that either. And okay. So who decides whether or not they're going to seek the death penalty? Do you know?
State's attorney's office?
Mm-hmm. So the prosecutor has to determine that a case involves a capital crime. So I'm going to put this back up. State prosecutors have sole discretion whether to pursue the death penalty against a defendant. Factors include the financial resources available in a jurisdiction, the views of constituents and the local political climate, and the prosecutor's own views can affect the likelihood a defendant will face the death penalty. These factors can result in disparities in how often and for what crimes the death penalty is sought within a state.
Right. And by sections of the state, right? Because depending on who your state attorney is, like what area, like a Jacksonville versus an Orange County ASA. Okay. Wow.
Correct. So, and I will just say this is a factual thing. I live in Hillsborough County, which is the Tampa Bay area, and we had a twice elected Democrat state's attorney named Andrew Warren. Governor DeSantis removed Andrew Warren from office and put a person he picked by the name of Susie Lopez in his place. And
interesting.
Mr. Warren was going to announce that day that his conviction integrity unit had just solved a 37-year-old cold case. The conviction integrity unit no longer exists. But do you know what we do have? We now have a state's attorney specifically dedicated to the death penalty here.
What does that mean? They review all the cases? Okay.
It's like a specialized individual. So, interesting, right? And this was not the only state attorney that has been removed under Governor DeSantis' administration. So, just a fun fact for you.
Yes. I like the idea of the investigative unit, though, because it gives some sort of synchronicity. Integrity. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, it's a conviction integrity unit. I love that. I wanted to go work in the conviction integrity unit, and it was just started a few years before it was ended. And they had already figured out that 37-year-old case.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Now it's gone. Sucks, doesn't it?
Yes. Because people's lives are literally on the line. Like, you want to make sure there's consistency and there's like reason and rhyme to it,
Exactly. Alexis is telling us that New York does not currently have a DP, as the state's highest court declared the DP law unconstitutional in 2004. Wow. And all the remaining sentences were commuted to life. That's been 21 years.
Thanks, Alexis. Wow. Okay.
Wow.
So it hasn't been here since I've been here, because I came in 2008. So, yeah.
I didn't even know that, though. Crazy, right?
Very much so. It's a lot. I think mentally, I can't imagine, like, if you're sitting there waiting, and also for these people who have been exonerated, right? I think I saw 2 out of 8.2, or I can't remember what the stat was that you showed, but imagine that weight and then having it lifted. Yeah.
Okay. Another point, though, that we read about, which makes a lot of sense, is the families for the victims, but also the convicted families are, if you're going through an appeals process that takes, people are saying, oh, you got justice, and is justice waiting 20 years for a person to be unalived by the state? Is that justice? Is that what that looks like to that person? I personally think, excuse me, I personally think that that justice is independent to each person,
Right.
But I can't tell you what that is. So yeah. But I think there's a lot of factors at play, and I just have to wonder, like, is going through an appellate process and having the case brought forward again and again and again. But do you have personal experience with this?
I do. So my brother was murdered in 2001, and his murderer was convicted to the death penalty. But in California, it's been it's not stay. There's a moratorium on them. So, but yeah, it takes a long time, and the appeal process is a long time. As far as like coming back up to talk about it after they've been convicted, it's just very complex. It's a lot. I think it's, I don't know, when you say justice depends on the person, it varies because it keeps recurring. But I guess if someone gets life with the possibility of parole, you're kind of going through the same thing, because then they're coming up for parole. It's hard when someone dies. I don't know if you ever really get justice. Do you know? Like you have like, okay, that person is going to be punished, but it's not going to bring your loved one back. And it's a lot of legal stuff. Like, it was hard on my mom, just emotionally. For her, I think I was a little more, obviously I was emotional, but I was a little more practical and coordinating with the DA and understanding like what's going on and what's the next process, the next step in the process, and then walking my mom through that. But it's brutal. And then we also had to re-testify in the second phase, right, of going back in and talking about, just like, it was a happier testimony of like what his life was like, the victim impact statements. But it's rough.
Yeah, I imagine that it would be for each family, like each individual person. don't think that there's one good definition. In my personal opinion, I feel like I can't speak to what another person thinks is justice.
Right.
That's just sort of how. Now, is that man, he stayed because California's got a moratorium.
Right.
How long has it been?
He was convicted in 2007. So it's been a while.
Okay. Wow. And so the prosecutor, did they have, you guys were involved in the process? Like, did they notify you ahead of time that that's what they were going to do?
Yes. And that also causes strife because there just are different opinions about what should happen next. And so trying to like come to an agreement as a family is also, difficult depending on what your viewpoint is pertaining to the penalty that they're seeking, right? And so, you're involved along the way. And you don't have the final say as the victim's family or as the victim, but you are involved and your thoughts are heard.
That's good. I mean, I definitely think that should happen. Buck, in the state of Florida, it will automatically appeal, and you don't have the ability to waive that, even though I know someone who attempted that. But
Really?
In Florida, I can't speak to anywhere else. But yeah, let's go over to the chat for a moment because I have been ignoring them. Route Irish, good to see you. Let's see. Deb H, welcome. Barry says, I love Tanika because she's lived many lives in many places and learns and grows from it and then rebuffs middle age by being a new mom, and I love it. I have a friend of mine who is a millennial, and she says, I've lived a lot of lives in my lifetime. So
my grandmother said when I got here, I was an old soul. So I'm just continuing.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I don't know if Eileen Wuornos decided not to appeal or not. Super Kelly G. I'm not sure about that at all.
Hi, Kelly.
So, okay. So in Florida, and I am supposed to put the statute back up for you, but I'm just going to read it. The processes and procedures in Florida are in Florida Statute 782. And if the prosecutor intends to seek the death penalty, the prosecutor must give notice to the defendant and file the notice with the court within 45 days after arraignment. The notice must contain a list of the aggravating factors the state intends to prove and has reason to believe it can prove beyond a reasonable doubt. The court may allow the prosecutor to amend the notice upon a showing of good cause. So, are you aware of what the aggravating and mitigating things are? Are you aware of what that is?
I know what they are. Or do you mean in the Gardner case specifically?
No, just in general.
So aggravating things that make it worse, like what it sounds like. Like, for
Mhm.
example, in this case, we have the child in the backseat, and then the child is trapped while her father is fighting for her life. Mitigating, something that would come in, I don't know. I've seen things like where they were in foster care their whole life, or they have some mental issue going on, or some behavioral issue, and so the court should take mercy on them, and not hold them to the same as if they were you or I who didn't like grow up in foster care or who didn't have a mental issue.
Right. So this is the proceedings to determine sentencing, and I've done some highlighting for you.
I like it.
It felt very law school-esque.
With the different colors. Yes, I love this.
I still have on, Henry chews on everything, but I have, the many colored highlighters.
Love. I think Sugar Bear has absconded with all of my, they're my little, you can't even see me now. But I had some on my desk.
Mine disappear or they become chewed upon, and that's just, Yeah. So we have what's called a bifurcated trial. So we've been talking about their two phases, right? So we are gonna ask our jury, are you guilty or you innocent, right? And they find you guilty, you're moving on to the next phase. So if you're moving on to the next phase, I did not even understand this completely. That one, I did not know this. So the trial, if through impossibility or inability, the trial jury, so from the guilt innocence phase, is unable to reconvene for a hearing on the issue of penalty, which normally comes right after, the trial judge may summon a special juror or jurors to determine the imposition of the penalty, which is crazy.
Oh.
I didn't know that. I did not know that. If the trial jury has been waived, or if the defendant pleaded guilty, which I had have happen, right? The sentencing proceeding shall be conducted before a jury impaneled for that purpose unless waived by the defendant. My defendant waived it. So he didn't put on any, the state put on aggravating, but just to the judge, and there was no mitigation, even though 5 years had been spent putting together probably $1 million mitigation package.
Why not?
Because he is who he is. We
Okay.
could do a chat about him sometime.
Okay.
I think it's fascinating. It's a messy situation. But I didn't know that you could even do that. So the other thing I didn't know is that in that second phase, evidence may be presented as to any matter that the court deems relevant to the nature of the crime and the character of the defendant, and shall include matters relating to any of the aggravating factors enumerated in subsection 6 for which notice has been provided, or mitigating circumstances enumerated in subsection 7. So do you see this next bit? Any such evidence that the court deems to have probative value may be received, regardless of its admissibility under the exclusionary rules of evidence, provided the defendant is accorded a fair opportunity to rebut any hearsay statements.
Oh, wow.
Right? So all bets are off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea. I just didn't know that it was sort of like an anything goes situation.
Right. They can rebut the hearsay, but it's coming in. They don't there's wow.
Yep. So,
and just to be clear, just so people understand the distinction, like in the guilty, not guilty, if it's it's usually more probative than punitive is the standard for it to be admitted. But if it's more punitive to the defendant, the judge doesn't let it in. There are some exceptions to that, but it has to be argued.
I don't know, Alexis, if I can make it any bigger. Because it just takes it as like the PDF size. And I made the print bigger as it was so we could have a shot at reading it. I don't think I can enlarge it further.
I think if you play it on full screen, because I have it on my other monitor on full screen. I mean, for the person watching.
There.
Okay.
How about that? Is that better?
I can see it fine.
I've got a big giant screen in front of me too on my
yeah.
On my right side. Okay, so yeah, that's the probative versus prejudice, right? So that's the 403 balancing test that we always hear about. Whether or not evidence can come in is whether it's more prejudicial than probative.
Right.
So
except what they're saying in this phase that all bets are off.
Right.
When there's more on the line.
So we went through this a whole bunch today trying to figure this out, because for a while Florida was the only state in the country where you didn't have to find that nothing in a death case had to be unanimous. And so finally now we have that the jury has to be unanimous on one aggravating factor. Just one.
Wow. Okay.
Just one. Unanimously find. So the jury shall, it says the jury shall return findings identifying each aggravating factor found to exist. A finding that an aggravating factor exists must be unanimous. If the jury does not unanimously find at least one aggravating factor, the defendant is ineligible for a sentence of death. So if they can't agree on at least one factor, then that's it.
Yikes.
So
and is there a limit to like to what can be admitted as far as aggravating? Like, can the prosecution come up with like 12 aggravating factors, or is there a restriction?
No, we actually have a list of the aggravators and the mitigators. So let's see. The court may consider only an aggravating factor that was unanimously found to exist by the jury. So I kept highlighting that. Let's see. Aggravating. So we have here. Okay, I see the aggravating factors
at the bottom there.
At the bottom. So and you see just above that, number 5, review of judgment and sentence. So you get automatic review by the Florida Supreme Court, and the disposition is rendered within 2 years after filing the notice of appeal. And such review by the Supreme Court shall have priority over all other cases and shall be heard in accordance with rules adopted by the Supreme Court. Now, here are your aggravators, right? So let's see if we can find anything beyond the aggravated child abuse for your case. So we've got the capital felony was committed by a person previously convicted of a felony and under sentence of imprisonment or placed on community control or felony probation. So
our shooter did have prior felonies, but because he states evidence, he's not facing the DP.
Okay. Plus he got second degree.
Yes.
You're good.
Yeah, he's looking at a minimum of 15 up to life. Where before with no deal, it would have been no less than 25.
Yeah, because I saw that and seeing that so we have 3 people involved in your case, right?
Yep.
You've got the person who did the actual unaliving, and his name is Tenon.
Yes.
And he flipped and made a deal. So he only got charged with second degree.
Correct.
Whereas the wife and the new husband, they've both been charged with first degree and are looking at the death penalty, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So defendant was previously convicted of another capital felony or of a felony involving the use of or threat of violence to the person.
It was definitely violent.
But there was nobody that was previously convicted of another capital felony.
Correct.
Okay, the defendant knowingly created a great risk to many persons. And so then letter D, capital felony was committed while the defendant was engaged or was an accomplice in the commission of or an attempt to commit or flight after committing or attempting to commit any robbery, SB, aggravated child abuse, which is what you've got, abuse of an elderly person or disabled adult resulting in great bodily harm, permanent disability or permanent disfigurement, arson, burglary, kidnapping, aircraft piracy, or unlawful throwing, placing, or discharging of a destructive device or bomb.
Wow.
So you've got, in your case, you have the
child abuse.
The child abuse, right. So
Aggravating, yeah.
Yeah, it continues on then. We've got committed for the purpose of avoiding or preventing a lawful arrest or effecting an escape from custody. For pecuniary gain, would you say that happened? Hey, Widespread Panic, welcome.
Yes, because she would have, well, I wouldn't say that was the prime. Actually, I don't know if she got pecuniary gain. Tenon did for sure. I don't know if she would. I think she just wanted custody. Honestly, I don't know that she would have gotten any like money. Yeah.
Well, so she had, to be clear, there was a trust.
Yes.
And the trust was funded by her parents, right?
Yes, and controlled by her current husband.
Right, who had been her trainer at the gym.
No, he wasn't. He was the maintenance man at the gym. She had an affair with the trainer at the gym, but not him.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That bit.
Yeah.
So original husband, former
husband,
buys Shanna training sessions at a gym.
Correct.
She goes to the gym. She has an affair with the trainer, but ends up marrying the maintenance man.
Yes. I don't know if he was at the same gym as where the trainer was, but yeah, he was the maintenance man. He was doing some maintenance, all right.
Wow. Okay. Well.
And she's very fit. She's buff. Like, you can tell she spends a lot of time in the gym.
Yeah, you can see from her arrest photos. Okay, so I'm looking at too many things at once and I need to not do that. The capital felony was committed to disrupt or hinder the lawful exercise of any governmental function or the enforcement of laws. The capital felony was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel. I feel like they always use that.
Yeah.
And then I think this one might apply as well. The capital felony was a homicide and was committed in a cold, calculated, and premeditated manner without any pretense of moral or legal justification. So then we've got the victim of the capital felony was law enforcement engaged in the performance of their duties. Victim was elected or appointed public official engaged in the performance of their duty. Victim of the capital felony was a person less than 12 years of age. The victim was particularly vulnerable due to advanced age or disability, or because the defendant stood in a position of familial or custodial authority. My words are not going to want to come out. Committed by a criminal gang member, that's defined by statute. Committed by a person designated as an S predator, or a person previously designated as such who had that designation removed. Was committed by a person subject to an injunction issued, and then more statutes. And again, like protection orders. So then we have the mitigating factors. So aggravating factors are all the things the state gets to bring. Right. And they use that not only like in the charging and deciding to bring the death penalty, but during the penalty phase, they can present anything that you asked. Like, I think if there was a list, that's the list.
Okay. I think this is good. It gives me context too, because there are other cases. Well, one, knowing that it's the state attorney by each district, but knowing these aggravating factors play into it. I don't know if you're familiar with the Adelson case, but it's similar to the Gardner case in that there was a hitman and there was a rich family. Only the hitman faced the death penalty in that case. He wasn't convicted of the death penalty. He got life, but then there was a lot of flack, but also the state attorney did not want to pursue the family. And so when that attorney was no longer in office, then they went after the family, but none of them are facing the death penalty. The son has been convicted of life, and now the mom is getting ready to go to trial in June facing life. So understanding these, but there was not a child involved, right? And there weren't these other, this helps clarify for me, because I wondered, like, how do they, like, what's the defining sort of, yes, this is eligible, no, this isn't?
Yeah. Well, people ask me all the time, you know, what is the difference, or what are the aggravators and what are the mitigators? So we are, let me see. I know I'm skipping stuff, so hang on one second. So we have two attorneys. We're going to look at the mitigators in just one second. But you're going to have two attorneys in a death penalty case in the state of Florida. Now, in my personal experience, the cases that I have currently, or I only have one that has gone to sentencing since I started in this kind of work, but the statute says that you need a lead counsel and a co-counsel. The way that I, oh, hi, Dad. The way that I understand it, or the way that it is done by the attorneys I know, is that the first phase trial attorney is, I guess, is what would be considered lead counsel. And then the second phase attorney is what would be the co-counsel. And you asked me if there was any, like, did they talk to each other, basically?
Yes.
And so they have kind of different duties as it comes, you know, like one of the first phase attorneys I know would never touch a second phase, but then I know other attorneys who will flip-flop back and forth.
Oh.
So it's two different jobs, because the first phase is, are you guilty or are you innocent? It's just like every other trial we watch on YouTube, right? So, and that's the side I usually work, which is like the fact investigation. I don't want to do mitigation.
Okay.
At all.
But my thing is, like, the DP attorney has already put in their notice of appearance for both Shayna and Mario, and they're not convicted yet. So, like, are they working with the trial attorney, or is it?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
so normally, like, you would know and ideally have some sort of working relationship with both those attorneys. In my circuit here, we've run out of capital death penalty qualified attorneys. We've run out of them.
Wow.
I know. They're like, we're getting so many multi-defendant cases in which they are seeking the death penalty. It's become a problem. We have a problem. We are running out of death qualified attorneys here. So one of the attorneys I work with, he's first phase on 4 of my 5. And then another attorney I work with is first phase on the 5th, but is second phase on at least 2 others. So, like, all of the attorneys that practice in a circuit like this, they know each other. Whether, it doesn't matter what side you're on, right? It doesn't matter if you're a public defender or if you're the prosecutor. If you have been in legal circles in a town long enough, then you know each other, right? And I had someone say, why is my lawyer up there joking around with the state's attorney, and then he tells me we can't get a deal? And I'm like, you have to think of these people as like they're your colleagues, right? So you can go up there and yuck it up, or you see each other at a party and you can have some whiskey or whatever, but when it comes to doing your job, of course you're going to focus on representing your client, right? But can you imagine if you just had a wall of hate between you and every other? You can't. That's not. You don't want that, right?
Right.
And you want there to be at least some sort of respect between opposing counsel.
Right.
But then if you're working in conjunction to try a case, then yes, you can share the experts, but there's an exception, because you had asked me if the like a mental health expert who testified in the first phase, if they could testify again in the second phase, and the answer is yes. The only thing that you cannot do anymore that I'm aware of is when I first started doing this, the private investigator, the me, could also be the mitigation specialist.
Oh.
So I work as a fact investigator, right? We're going to look at the qualifications for being a mitigation specialist in just a second.
Okay.
But up until a couple of years ago, if I was the PI on the fact piece and I had the qualifications for the mitigation phase, I could do both. But that meant I was getting paid. I would have been getting paid twice.
Okay.
I did not do this at any point in time. Mitigation specialists make more money. I've been qualified to be mitigation before, but it is not something that like I endeavor to do. It's just
okay.
It's not my thing. So mitigating circumstances, we're still on this one page here, and it seems like there aren't that many. The defendant has no significant history of prior criminal activity. The capital felony was committed while the defendant was under the influence of extreme mental or emotional disturbance. The victim was a participant in the defendant's conduct or consented. The defendant was an accomplice in the capital felony committed by another person, and his or her participation was relatively minor. The defendant acted under extreme duress or under the substantial domination of another person. The capacity of the defendant to appreciate the criminality of his or her conduct to conform his or her conduct to the requirements of law was substantially impaired. The age of the defendant at the time of the crime, and the existence of any other factors in the defendant's background that would mitigate against the imposition of the death penalty. So what they do is they take a psychosocial history, right? They go back and they find your teachers and they pull your school records and they interview all your family members.
Wow.
Then we go to, and I'm having to do some of this on these juvenile cases. They're asking for mitigation on them. So that means I have to go and try to get records out of DCF, which is, they don't like to give that up. It's a pain, but it's sort of like they're getting fancier with it, right? They go and interview your mom and they interview your foster parents, or all the different things. They bring all that stuff up, right? And then if there is any serious cognitive issues, and I don't know if you heard me on one stream, I was talking about a young man who felt as though because he committed or allegedly committed a brutal murder while he was under the age of 21, he should only have to spend 10 years in prison and then get out to have a family.
Oh, wow. Balls of a burglar.
Yep. And he's got one heck of a record. And the attorney is having me try to dig up every record under the sun on this kid, Craziness. It's all just craziness. All right.
It really is. Yikes.
So let me go over here and see how are you guys doing over here in the chat. There are nuns. Why are we talking about nuns? Why are we talking about nuns? Can you enlighten me, Tanika?
I don't know. We've been talking about, we, the collective group, nuns and marriages. I don't know what's going on over there.
What's happening?
Colleen, you're just in time. It'll make sense. Stay with us.
Hey, OnlyFan. Hi. So nice to see you, sir. Hi, Colleen K. Welcome. No,
you know who I haven't seen in a while? Therapist,
she is usually in Trial TV Live's chat because she's a mod over there.
Okay.
She was my first Patreon person.
Cool.
I've asked her if she wanted to come on, even to just do trivia. She loves trivia. I love
Nice. I'm horrible at trivia.
I'm only good at Gen X trivia. The rest of it, I don't know. Widespread is saying that therapist is taking care of her mom this weekend.
Okay.
Because Widespread's over there all the time too. I'm a mod over there, but you wouldn't know it because I don't really do any modding. Let's see. I don't.
Did you see any of the Wade Wilson trial also out of Florida?
I am very familiar with Wade's case.
Okay.
They
brought in a lot of. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say. So I didn't watch the trial while it was ongoing, but I've since learned a lot about it. And you know how you're doing dramatic readings of Sarah's messages and stuff on your channel? There's a channel called Melissa Jade, and she and her friends are being the Wade wives and reading all of the, tablet messages and emails and all the nonsense back and forth. I've learned a lot about how ignorant people are. But the other thing about his case, and may his victims rest in peace, because that was just that he is a vile human being.
Yes.
I used to live and work. Well, I used to work right where he was. They tried to pick him up at Mila's Spa, like the Joe's Crab Shack that they talk about.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times my dad and I ate there.
Wow.
I know. So and I drove past the Buddha bar a gazillion times in the 10 years I lived there. I never went there. And obviously I'm older by a lot than Wade Wilson, but you still have to think, oh my God, like that's so close to where I spent like a lot of time.
Yeah.
So what were you going to say about
there were different specialists they brought in, psychiatrists who came in for the death penalty part that hadn't been in the initial part, and I just wondered, like, did they confer with like the therapist from in the in the guilty not guilty phase? It just seemed like a very well orchestrated band of witnesses.
Yeah, I mean, I would think so. Was it Dr. Eisenstein? Yeah. He's very nice. I've talked to him before.
Yes, he appeared on Sarah's list when she was pro se, so that's when I looked him up, and I'm like,
there aren't that many experts. Like, I see the same ones, popping up over and over again because there's only so many that are at least sort of native to Florida, right? Like, I even have a case that's really old, from the early 2000s, and I know who the trial counsel was, and I know of the second phase. I've never met him, but he's on a case I'm working on. And some of the experts are the same ones that have been around forever, so I don't know. You just see a lot of the same people come around. So that's interesting. They had two different experts, and I'm wondering why, because you did ask that. And I leave the sliders open during the day when it's cool outside for Henry, and because it's spring, it's essentially spring here, like little flying things are coming in. So yes, I'm like batting at flies. I lost my train of thought. I have no idea what I was going to say. Let me see. So if both the attorneys and the juries need to be death qualified, but because we are here talking in my Judging the Jury series, death qualified court appointed defense attorney, which are the people I work with and for, if chat is interested in this, in learning more about what it takes for an attorney in Florida to become death qualified, let us know in the chat, and we will add a piece to the series, because I love to tell everybody about all this stuff. Okay, what was happening here, Barry? Barry, are you giving legal advice, sir? Remember, chat and friends, we don't have to have M for M or scarlet letters to be our own successful pro se indigent defendants in our own lives and seek successful outcomes for all we do. Are you channeling Sarah Boone? Because that's what it sounds like. Hi, Henry. You have food. You're good. You're so funny. I'm living for your continued coverage on the Sarah thing. She is so mean, Tanika. She is so mean.
Really mean.
Really
It's like, I don't understand how she thinks she's the victim always, but she's attacking people.
Yeah. Oh, can we talk I know it's completely off topic, but for just a moment about her use of grammar, sentence structure. What do you want to call it, Tanika? The way in which her speech pattern, her writing pattern is? Explain
spaghetti.
It.
I want to call it spaghetti.
She's missing. Her gold goes out to all of us, and it's still going out. Yes, isn't that wonderful? Oh, Amy Crew, we're talking about Sarah Boone. Tanika has obtained
tablet messages, her tablet messages from up until September of 2024. The state attorney was going to use it if they brought Brian Boone in as a witness if defense brought them in to rebut her. So they didn't bring him, so it didn't come in, but I was able to request them.
Yeah, I've been enjoying the way you read them. You must be exhausted. There were so many. But I'm like, oh, Tanika put out a 2-hour video. I had it in my car. You saw I sent you.
I did, yes. Oh my. She's the gift that keeps on giving.
She is. I love it. I don't know why. It's just the same way as I like Melissa Jade and her crew reading all the Wade Wives nonsense. It's just hilarious.
I've caught some of they're funny. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. I like Melissa Jade a lot. I don't know how I just stumbled futuristically. Thank you. Is that a word?
It is, but not the way it is, but she's using it incorrectly. It would be more if you think of a look or an aesthetic of looking like it belongs in the future. It's not, it doesn't mean in the future the way she's saying it.
It drives me crazy. I don't like it, and I want it to be banned. But she also, I think, she uses nonetheless incorrectly. Does she
nonetheless not? Yes, she does. I think her mother must have said that because she also says it with her brother and he says it back. So I think it's just a learned bad habit. Do you know?
My mother was very particular. I come from there were a lot of teachers on my dad's side were all education people. My Nana was a teacher forever. Then my mom was a teacher, and then I have teaching credentials as well. But my mom would correct. We were in the car every day for an hour going to school and an hour back from school because I lived in the country, and my mom put us in Montessori in the city. So my grammar was corrected frequently, as was my enunciation.
Yeah.
20.
Same. My mom was a stickler. Yeah. Oh, or she still is. She's alive. But yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yes. There's if you say, where are you at? My mother would say, between the A and the T.
Yes. The young people say that all the time now, though.
Oh, the young people say all kinds of things that apparently Ohio is some sort of a slur. I don't know. I was born there. I was raised there, but it's a thing.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I have no idea why. I had to download a Southern street slang PDF to try to translate some of the text messages I have to read. Has Boone reacted to Tanika? Not that we're aware of.
I'm in the text messages.
Are you?
Yes.
Nuh-uh.
Yes.
Have I missed that? How did I
No,
miss
I
that?
haven't aired that part. Yeah, I'm reading ahead because I redact her son's name, and then there are parts of it where I want to do research on people's criminal history, where's her car, so it takes a while, but yeah, I'm in there, unfortunately.
I'm dying.
They call me the Wasp.
Well, you did say that some of her friends were hiding in the what's
In the
the phrase
bushes.
you use? Hiding in the bushes. Yeah.
They're like peeking.
The Wade wives are in Melissa Jade's chat too.
Okay.
Reporting. Alexa says the correct use of the word in a sentence. His stylish hotel is futuristically designed in steel and glass.
Right. It refers to the aesthetic of the hotel and not a
Not
time period.
Like a time in the
right.
future. Futuristically. I'm like, God, is that even a word? And could she stop using it? And what? Oh,
I think in the Jetsons. George and his dog, like, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is kind of funny. My mom's side, Barry Adams says, my mom's side of the family is New England lace curtain Irish Catholic, which is very descriptive.
Yes.
My dad's side is Yisner Mennonite Pittsburgh. So I use Pennsylvania Dutch words with a New England accent, and I bet I can't understand a word you say.
I love it. We've got to have coffee. Oh my God.
I did my freshman year of college in Boston, and my sociology professor had such a strong Boston accent. I could not understand him and had to sit next to a girl that was native to Massachusetts so I could copy her notes because I did not understand a word that man said.
Wow.
You know? Yeah, it was a lot to process. I just couldn't get a hang of the New England JD, welcome. He says, haha, is it Yinzer? How do I say this, guys?
I gotta look this up. Let's see.
Yisner, yeah. Ugh. Amy Crew Simmons College. Right on the Fenway. It was very cold.
A person from Pittsburgh region, particularly someone who speaks with the Pittsburghese accent or embodies stereotypical blue-collar Pittsburgh characteristics. I'm a blue-collar kind of girl, so I dig it.
Got it. I understand. Yes, Yins are and Yins right up the room with the Hoover for the family. Okay, guys. You are hilarious, but you are derailing me. All right, we're going to go back and talk about the death qualified jury. Did you know, Tanika, did you know that the jury was supposed to be death qualified?
I did not, and I would love to know what makes them death qualified. Well, one,
it's not that fancy, really.
Okay.
But yeah, let me try to. Why is it telling me to? Oh, I need to switch the layout. I'm learning.
I would imagine that doing voir dire, you have to not be opposed to DP, otherwise you wouldn't make it.
Yep, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
To serve on a capital jury, a person must be willing to consider all of the sentencing options, usually death and life imprisonment without parole. An affirmative response indicates that the potential juror is death qualified if their opinions would prevent them from considering any of the sentencing options. Then they are not death qualified and are eliminated by the judge, dismissed for cause, which means they don't count as a strike against either side from serving on the jury. Is there any potential impact of requiring death qualified jury on the makeup of the jury pool? Yes. Research shows that this death qualification process prevents substantial segments of American society from serving on juries in capital cases. The process of death qualification is especially likely to exclude women, Black people, other people of color, and Catholics. Other research provides evidence that death qualified juries are more likely to convict the defendant, less likely to accept an insanity defense, less willing to consider mitigating factors, and more likely to impose harsh sentences overall.
Wow.
Barry Adams, they use them both. That's the same jury. It's all the way through. Yeah, Barry, you're out because you're half Catholic. You can't be doing that. Hi, Jenny. Welcome. So, does any of this surprise you, Tanika?
Yes.
Tell me more. Tell me why.
So the qualification, excluding women, Black people, other people of color, and Catholic, I'm all of those.
Are
so
you
I'm
Catholic?
yes.
Oh
Well,
my
I was
God.
raised Catholic. I like to
Okay.
say I'm Reformed, but then people get mad. I'm not saying it's a drug. I just don't practice. But yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, is that during the voir dire process? Because you can do that on site. Then it's just like, I mean, at least for the women and the Black people. Wow.
So yeah, I mean, you know, when they're summoned and they come in and then they're given a questionnaire, you know, and it's just usually very basic, and we are not given a whole lot of time to process that information, you know, because we've got a stack of them and we're filling out a chart. And yeah, Bookworm, you aren't wrong that roughly half the population no longer approves of the death penalty. We looked at a lot of numbers today, and I am not very good with statistics. When I was in college, where I ultimately ended up going to college in Dallas, I was shopping. It was a lot of boutiques, and I liked to shop. And somebody heard my voice and said, "Oh my God, you're the girl that keeps yelling at the statistics professor." Yes, I am. That's right.
Wow.
Because he doesn't teach us anything.
Oh no.
I actually got called into the dean's office, or my advisor's office, because of my behavior towards the statistics professor. And I went to Southern Methodist University in Dallas. And the guy was like, "What is your deal with him?" And I'm like, "What, are you going to sanction me for calling him out because he doesn't teach us anything?" Like,
that's hilarious. I'm going to turn my camera off for a second. I got to attend to my nose, but I'm here.
Okay, no problem. Okay. Yes, Amy Crew. Oh, girl. You're my heart. Yes. Dallas equals Neiman equals love. I know. Oh, I wish for the 90s to come back. No, Barry, do not tell chat to pack it up. No. We're still here. We're having fun. This is good. We're having fun. Well, who wouldn't want to talk about the death penalty on a Saturday night? All right. No. Sugar Bear does not want to talk about the death penalty on a Saturday night. Okay, so we went over. I kind of got things out of order. Okay, so the basic factors that the jurors have to find is whether the state has proven the existence of an aggravating factor, right? We looked at all of those. Was the aggravating factor sufficient to warrant a death sentence? Has the defense proven the existence of one or more mitigating factors? Do the aggravators outweigh the mitigators? And then finally, should the defendant be sentenced to death? And as we said, now, as a result of the 2023 legislative change, jurors only need to come to a unanimous finding that the state has proven one aggravating factor, which is crazy. So you had asked me, I'm curious about the death penalty's attorney's activities during the guilty phase. Are they consulting with trial counsel? For example, if there are mental health concerns that might be mitigating, do they find a different expert than was used at trial? I said no, because to my knowledge, we just don't have that many experts to go around. Or maybe it's that I just keep seeing the same ones over and over again, because a lot of the trials that we watch here on YouTube, whether I'm, no matter what county it's in, I have usually at least heard of the expert.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So there aren't that, you know what I mean? That's just not.
Yeah. I think the difference, like with Wilson, is that the second one was a forensic psychologist or psychiatrist, and the first one, something to that.
Oh, there is a difference. Okay. So, I just found an expert that I want to use going forward. I talk a lot about mitigation, getting these juveniles evaluated. And she did send me an email with like 2 lines, and it was clarified the difference between the forensic, like a forensic psychologist and a something psychiatrist, maybe.
Yeah.
And I had not been aware of the distinction, but it was very short and sweet, and I should find it. And
I find
bring
it
it to my attention.
fascinating. I also wonder, based on what like the statistics you showed us at the beginning and the trending, if DNA and more hard like scientific based data has impacted that, because I feel like, in the early, before we were using DNA the way we are now, you'd have like eyewitnesses, and we've learned over time how unreliable eyewitnesses are relative to scientific data. So I feel like jurors probably feel more confident in their decision when they're coming to guilty and then can move forward. Do you know? Where before it's like some lady, it reminds me of my cousin Vinny, the lady who was like, I saw him, and then they were like, did you have your glasses on? Was the screen on? Was it this screen? You know what I mean? Because the cars were very similar. And so I just wonder if less people are exonerated now based on the way technology has changed evidence.
We were reading something earlier today that, what was I looking at? That I was looking at something earlier today that was talking about, your case. It's your Bridegan case. Remember I sent you a link to a place where you could get a lot of information? Okay, so I was reading that, and they talked about how they built the case on digital evidence. That it was location data, communication data, and financial. Who writes checks anyway? But like,
right, where follow the money. It's always follow the money.
But they said that they really built the case through electronics.
So they had the truck leaving the scene. They had his phone putting 10 in there. There's a lot of like digital. Yeah.
So in a lot of my cases now, it's follow the digital trail, right? So if law enforcement can pick up somebody's their handle on some sort of social media site, right? And then they just it's like a reverse connect the dots. And that's how they're getting people. So if they've got your phone number, or if they've got an idea, like at Tanika's 2 cents on whatever, maybe sent a text to Jared over here, then they're going to they start to unravel that.
Right. They just pull that thread, and then, okay.
And the funny thing is that all these youngsters, they have it's like they don't have any perspective on the world around them. So they think that within their bubble, like, you can't see anything. If you're not within their, whatever their social following is, then like the rest of the world doesn't exist, because they can't believe for a second that, 1, they were caught on camera, or 2, that we can see everything they ever said on, whatever social media there is.
Right.
They have no idea. So, like I told my story about the guy walking down the street wearing the slides he just stole, like he had the slides on his hands that he had just stolen from a kid. And that kid's mom pulled over and said, those look like my son's slides. Did you just steal them? And he's like, yeah, I did. So then he goes home, and he and his friend pose with their guns in the slides, and it's on iCloud. And
wow.
Yes, wow.
What I love is when people send things on Messenger and think it's private, and then the state gets a warrant and gets everything dumped, and then it's all popping up. Yeah, pictures and bad things they've done and talked about, because nothing is private. It all belongs to Meta. I
cannot unsee some stuff I have seen in people's phones, okay? Because there have been times that I have to go look through pictures, and it depends on whether things have been tagged by the original person that does the download that can set you up for seeing a lot of things you might not exactly want to see. Okay, as usual, the chat has moved on with as long as y'all are having fun, have fun. All right, let's see. So, let's talk about what it means to be a mitigation specialist. So that's the person who is responsible for gathering the information related to mitigation. Unfortunately, in some cases, it falls to me. But in a death penalty situation, it would be a separate person, which we talked about. In Florida, mitigation specialists in capital cases require a bachelor's degree in a related field like social work, psychology, or counseling, and experience in social work, mental health, or social service field work with experience in capital case mitigation being a plus. So I qualified as mitigation in a couple of cases, even though like my licensing or my contract with the JAC, you don't have a license to be a mitigation specialist. So it's a contractual thing with the JAC.
Okay.
My undergrad degree is in psychology, which is how I hit the qualification because I have a PI license and my bachelor's degree is in psychology.
Oh, cool.
So.
And you have great hair and a theme song.
Oh, you're very, you're very sweet. My hair is doing all kinds of crazy things. It's turning white and it can't decide if it wants to curl.
It looks awesome.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. I want to know from you and from the chat, how many jurors do you think there should be required to vote in favor of the death penalty on a case?
Chat, what do you think? I think 12. I know
agree.
That's not it, but yeah, I think 12.
I agree. No, so Jenny, I addressed this earlier. It used to be that yes, if you could be both the PI and the mitigation specialist, but the JAC said no, that's double dipping and you may not do that anymore. So everybody is saying 12 and unanimous. I agree with you guys. Alexis didn't even have to put a poll up in the chat. Everybody just agreed. Yeah, I think so too. I think it's very serious. It's a very serious thing. I think it's important. Amy says, I'd rather see the law dictate the penalty over a judge or jury. We read all kinds of crazy statistics. I think this last slide document thing I have for you is about unanimity. Try and say that 3 times fast.
You did a great job.
There are days that I can and days that I cannot speak. So 32 of the U.S. states that currently have the death penalty, only 3 do not require that the jury that votes on the life or death sentence be unanimous in its final sentencing or recommendation. And the federal government also requires unanimity, and that's a federal rule of criminal procedure. So it's got to be 12 because the perfect fact finder can't be the same one to rule life or death. So if it's imperfect, let the imperfections work it out all the way through. Sir has a way with words, does he not?
He does indeed.
Yeah, there is. Alexis, what state was it that the judge decided? Is that Texas? Was that Texas? It's probably Texas. I lived in Texas a long time. I have the slide. I'm putting it up. Okay. Yes. Okay, it's this last bit. I don't know if I can make it any bigger, you guys. We'll have to work on that for the future. but I just read you part of it. So this is from the American Bar Association in 2015. And they urge that all federal, state, and territorial governments that impose capital punishment and the military to require that before a court can impose a sentence of death, a jury must unanimously recommend or vote to impose that sentence. And the jury in such cases must also unanimously agree on the existence of any fact that is a prerequisite for eligibility for the death penalty and on the specific aggravating factors that have each been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. And then I just read you that because I go out of order. 32 U.S. states that currently have the death penalty, only 3 do not now require that the jury that votes on the life or death sentence be unanimous in its final sentencing recommendation or decision. The federal government also requires, see, now if I think about it, I can't say it. Empirical studies have revealed that without a unanimity requirement for a recommendation of death, capital jurors do not devote the same energy or emotional commitment to the discussion among jurors on the ultimate sentencing decision.
Wow.
And pro-death jurors are able to overpower and ultimately silence undecided or minority viewpoint jurors. Courts that allow a non-unanimous jury to render a verdict invariably empower superficial, narrow, and prejudiced arguments that appeal only to certain groups. Unanimous verdicts ensure that the defendants are convicted on the merits and not merely on the whims of the majority.
That's a lot. So that makes me feel like 12 even more, because if they're getting over-talked or, you know what I mean, then people could just fall silent and you end up, everyone's not feeling that way, but you've got the loud voice, if you will, overpowering.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I think if you're going to have it, then it should be unanimous. And I've talked about this before. There was a case, there she is. You said her name and she appears.
Hello therapist,
you know. It's good to see you. Yeah, Colleen, I did see that actually. Speaking of DP, Brian Koberger's attorney is trying to use autism as a mitigator. Yeah. I don't think he was ever. Yes, we were talking about you. So earlier today, Alexis and I were talking about people we hadn't seen in a minute. Actually, you were on that list, but Amy Crew was a person we hadn't seen in a minute. Amy Crew is the first person in my chat tonight. And we also said, I think Tanika asked me where you were. Did you ask me where she was? If I'd seen her?
Yeah, I just said I haven't seen her in a while. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, we're apparently Tanika. We have genie powers. We can summon our friends, as OnlyFans says. OnlyFans says, summoned from the depths of y'all. Keep it civil now. Barry says, I'm 38 now. I wasn't formally diagnosed until I was 36, and it took Yale specialists. Okay, you guys, your issues are gonna have to just remain your issues. We're having death penalty discussions here. Mel would like to know, Alexis, if the criminal judges in Montana are appointed or elected. And yes, therapists, we do hope that your mother is well. Alexa says, Mel. Okay, Barry, I'm glad you were never involved in a capital crime. Montana Supreme Court justices and district court judges shall be elected by the qualified electors as provided by law. So do you prefer elected judges or appointed judges? You're muted.
Sugar bear. Elected. I think the people should have a say in who is deciding justice.
Yeah. Amy says, isn't the mental health situations in court relative to the IQ being low rather than autism? Brian K is also clever, right? I don't know. I've paid attention to some of the arguments here and there. I'm just,
I think it would be because it's considered neurodivergence, right? It's still like classified as a disability.
Ohio Palm Mom says elected. Just look at the corruption in South Carolina that Murdaugh brought up. I mean, it exists everywhere in, in particular. Well, I don't. Okay, my experience is mostly living in the South or in Florida. So, yeah, Barry, you're right. You can't get away from political ties. It just doesn't know. Appointing federal judges is a big deal. Appointing Supreme Court justices is a really big deal too. So
yikes,
I don't know how I feel about like the lifetime appointment of things, of people in spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also feel like if they're elected, they can be yeeted at some point. I get that there's politics, but when it's a lifetime appointment, like
that's it. That's why I have a problem with it. Because, if you're just sticking around for your cozy salary and benefits or whatever, but you're completely disengaged from what's happening in the world around you, as I feel so many of the elder generation of lawyers currently are, then I find that to be problematic, the disconnect. So, and right now, Idaho doesn't even have a method. Ann Taylor is trying to line it up. She's trying to tee up issues about potential nerve-wracking firing squad situations. And Alexis lives in South Carolina. Sup, Rosa? Hello. God, I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. Wow. Larry Powers. I haven't seen you in a minute. Where are all these people coming from, Tanika?
Asperger's, Larry said. Uh-oh.
Larry says, I served on a jury for a murder trial here in El Paso, State versus Bowdoin. It was a soldier who killed a transsexual prostitute. His lawyers tried to blame self-defense Asperger's syndrome. Yeah, I work in defense. Obviously, I work on the defense, but as I say every week, I'm not here to get guilty people off. I think if there are actual cognitive issues, then that's fair, but trying to like create them out of whole cloth. Yeah, Mel, you brought everybody back. It's not, so you have to remember to keep coming back. Because you got here on time, and so everyone followed you. That's awesome. Oh yeah, Larry Powers. So Widespread Panic is asking you, well, Bookworm is asking you what the verdict was, and Widespread Panic is asking you, were you buying that as a juror, that the issues? During the penalty phase, Bowdoin lawyers blamed crime of passion. Interesting. But
is that mitigating?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I don't think so. It wasn't in the list, was it?
I don't know if Bowdoin was in Florida, but yeah,
that's Texas. He said
okay.
El Paso.
Okay.
So mitigating here in Florida was the felony was committed while the defendant was under the influence of extreme mental or emotional disturbance. Victim was a participant in the defendant's conduct or consented. The defendant was accomplice. Defendant acted under extreme duress or under the substantial domination of another person. Yeah, I guess if you were going to put passion in there, it would have to come under the theory in Florida anyway, under the influence of extreme mental or emotional disturbance. Oh, Larry is saying the death penalty was not on the table But they had a 2-phase trial? I'm confused.
They didn't buy the Asperger's syndrome. So in that case, in Florida, then the autism wouldn't qualify because that's not a mental that's not a distressor, right? It's they'd have to show something else happened that made him not mentally capable of processing.
So you've got the capacity of the defendant to appreciate the criminality of his or her conduct, to conform his or her conduct to the requirements of law, or substantially impaired, the existence of any other factors in the defendant's background that would mitigate imposition of the death penalty. Remember, we said you could kind of throw the entire kitchen sink at it, like at the beginning of the stream. I said that they really, let me see if I can find it again. Hold on. I read you a section, I want to say, of one of these statutes. Oh, here. Evidence may be presented as to any matter that the court deems relevant to the nature of the crime and character of the defendant, and shall include matters relating to any of the aggravated factors and for enumerated in subsection 6, and for which notice has been provided pursuant to 782.041B, or mitigating circumstances. Any such evidence the court deems to have probative value may be received regardless of admissibility under the exclusionary rules of evidence, provided the defendant is accorded a fair opportunity to rebut any hearsay statements. Remember, we saw that earlier?
Yes.
Which basically says, yeah, anything can come in. Amy Cruz says, the guy Gypsy Rose manipulated is serving life, and he was on disability and is a vulnerable adult. I mean, Larry says they gave him 35 years, and that's because 2 people and the jury really wanted to believe it was self-defense. Okay. He says, we didn't buy Asperger's syndrome. We had a couple of teachers that worked with children, so we didn't buy that. Ohio Palm Mom says, if he's capable enough to function successfully in society, it's not mitigating to me. It's very different for someone who's severely impaired. That's how I feel about that. This kid that that I just was talking about earlier, you know, where he thinks that since he murdered or allegedly participated in the murder of someone while he was under the age of 21, that he should only have to spend 10 years in prison and then get out and have a family. And the people in his life did not appreciate the fact that I told him that he was looking at life because he committed felony murder. And I got a lot of hateful messages from the people in his life because apparently he is fragile.
Wow. Can't handle the truth.
Yeah, right. I do not know if Scotty is here, Barry Adams, but I have got a story to tell you. And I told him I was going to tell him. Let's see. Go to Florida to golf or do meth and commit crimes. And when you need a real resolution, there might be a right answer, but you just can't find it in Florida sometimes. That's about right. You want to put that on a t-shirt? Let's see. Barry also says, I find it impossible to be a Florida lawyer. Just looking at the statutes with Sam and Tanika here, we got 2 different answers to the same question.
Which question?
Yes. So, the other day, Scotty called me, and he was walking outside his office to go to the gas station to get something to eat or whatever. And he's starting to go back to the office. And he's like, oh my God, my aggravated stalker is here. And it's a guy. So to be clear, this is a person that hired him on the street in front of the courthouse to represent him in his aggravated stalking case.
So he was stalking his potential attorney for his stalking case.
Should have been your first clue. So Scotty is a really good freaking lawyer, and he gets the guy out of jail on community control, which means that you need to be at your house. You are only allowed to go certain places for certain reasons at certain times, right? He's not on an ankle monitor. So he's like, oh my God, the aggravated stalker guy is here at the office, and he has two phones. So he's talking to me on his personal phone. I don't know if he had his work phone with him or not, but he's texting back to the people in the office and being like, tell him I'm not there, and to just leave or whatever. So I guess at some point the guy does leave. And this is like, I want to say this is around noon. Guy leaves for like 30 minutes, I guess. Scotty gets back into the office. But in the meantime, before the guy comes back, Scotty's wife comes and they're swapping phones or something. But he leaves his car keys, his computer, his hard drive, his office key, and both of his working phones in the office to go out to the parking lot to talk to the wife. Well, when stalker guy comes back, he like just tips the seat all the way back, and the wife drives out of the parking lot because Scotty's trying to avoid this guy because he's insane, right? I'm like, you should have called his PO, but okay. So next thing I know, and I look through my people, people don't just come over anymore, right? Like that used to be a thing. So
not in this century. Oh my God.
So I look through my people, and there's Scotty. Now you have to understand this. He's 6'3" at least. I am 5'3", so he is a large young man. So he comes in, and I'm like, what's happening, Scotty? The stalker's at the office. So are my keys, my phones, and everybody went home, and everything's locked up. Okay. How did you get here? Well, she brought me here. Okay, so let me get this straight. You don't have your phones, like your personal phone or your work phone. You've got a phone in your possession, but for whatever reason, it doesn't work. Like, I don't know what's going on with the phones. Your car is at the office. The door to the office is locked with all of your stuff inside. Am I following you here? He's like,
oh, wow.
I'm like, okay.
No.
So we have to get a key to the office. So yeah. Okay. Well, the person that we think we need to get the key from lives about 30 minutes in light traffic away. So we reach out to that person. Turns out he's just a few blocks away. So we go get the key, right? It's now like 6:30 at night. His original call to me had been around 11 in the morning. So we get in my car and we drive around and go past the office, and the guy's still there. Now everybody is cleared out. There's nobody there, right? Scotty's car is still in the parking lot, and so is aggravated stalker dude, who has been there all damn day.
Is there security on site?
No, it's a tiny little building. It's like a family-owned building. So I'm like, okay, we need a plan. We need a plan. I'm a schemer. I came up with a plan. I left Scotty with my car, and I walked up. We had the key to the office. So I walked up. The guy was not paying any attention. So I just walked straight up through the parking lot, and I said, may I help you? And he was like, oh, I'm meeting Scotty. And I'm like, no, you're not. He was not. I said, he's not here today. And I unlocked the door, and the guy tries to follow me inside. And I said, you can't come in here. And I pulled the door shut and I locked it. I went in through the second door and I shut that. And as I'm grabbing for all of Scotty's stuff, the guy is calling Scotty's phone, one of the phones that I'm like picking up. I'm like, that must be the guy, right? So I'm like, shove all his crap into his computer bag, let myself out of the office. I'm like struggling with the key. I don't work there. Like, I get into his car, which is gigantic, And I drive away and I'm watching in the rear view. I think that the stalker is potentially following me, but no, he kept going straight to get on the highway. And I turned to go find Scotty at the gas station with my car. So the guy blows Scotty up on Facebook Messenger later. They have no boundaries. 11 o'clock at night, he goes, "Your assistant is really mean."
Oh,
I'm
right.
the assistant who came to
Wow.
Scotty's car, and I'm really mean. Nothing about sitting outside your lawyer's office for a solid 8 hours while you're on community control. Like, I think you need to call his PO, you know, because this is ridiculous. You did your job too well. You got the aggravated stalker out of jail.
Wow, that's scary. I was wondering if maybe he had an air tag on the car, but you said he went to like the freeway. That's scary.
No, he went straight to the freeway. Yeah. Isn't it crazy? And it was just a little dude, you know, and I was just really
like
sharp.
Not right in the head, you know?
Oh, totally. Yeah. But I mean, that's your first clue, right? It's what are you representing them for? You know, and
that's scary.
The guy was blowing up Scotty's phones when he was in jail. Scotty gets him out on community control. The first thing he does is go stalk the lawyer. It's just I just had to go back to my youthful days of scheming about where I may or may not have been and how to get in or out of a place I may or may not have needed to be. It was kind of fun.
You saved the day, man. Wow.
I thought it was kind of fun. And I am mean, but I'm not his assistant.
Yikes.
Can you believe he tried to follow me in there? I'm like, what are you doing? He was not scary. You know, he wasn't a scary dude, but
he sounds creepy though. Do you know?
Yeah.
Like it's like there's an ick factor to that.
He was wearing like a COVID mask and sitting outside the front door, like on the like sidewalk curb, but there's a little parking lot and then the street. And he was like writing. And Scotty said he'd been doing that all day, like sitting outside writing. And he's trying to tell me that Scotty said he'd be here in 20 minutes. And I said, absolutely not. I said, he had court and was at the jail today. No.
Wow.
You need to go now.
Wow.
People are insane. You know?
Oof. Yeah. That stalking is. Go ahead.
You're right, Palm Mom. But you know, the issue that we have is that we're here trying to help people, advocating for them, and then they turn on us because it's never enough. It's never the right thing. It's you should have done better. You could have done more. You know, no matter what effort you put in or the outcome you get, we got a guy an amazing outcome on some really difficult charges, and he was mentally impaired to an extent. And I mean, we got him just the deal of the freaking century. And his mom came back around and was like, yeah, we got a new attorney, we're appealing this. He could have spent life. We got him 15.
Wow.
I mean, you know, it's just like, it's getting harder, Tanika, to do this job.
It seems like people feel like they should just get a couple of years, though, when they get busted. Like if the Jamie Komorowski, the drunk driver who killed the bride, and she was like, she won't be able to have children because I can't remember. She got a big sentence. But ma'am, the woman you unalived is not going to be able to have children either.
Right.
You were like recklessly drunk and driving.
Right.
You need to be held accountable. So I see a lot of the cases where it's like they could have taken a deal, but they're trying to get less time. And it's, I mean, you take your shot with the jury, but if the jury is sane and hearing what we're hearing, you're going to prison for a long time, friend.
Yeah, it floors me, you know. I don't know what people expect, and I don't understand. Like, you're getting free good attorneys, you're getting a free investigator, you're getting free forensic experts, free digital experts, you're getting all of this for free, and we make ourselves available, and then what we get in return is abuse. So like, I'm all done with being the nice and friendly PI that shows up every couple of weeks at the jail and that you can message or you could call. I'm all done with that now.
Yeah.
It's been 10 years for me in criminal defense, and I'll continue to do my job, but I'm not going to be as face-to-face involved with the defendants as I used to be. There's no respect, I guess.
Right. Good for you. I feel like because people have the right, they feel entitled. Like, I'll just pick my favorite felon, Sarah Boone, right? She had 4 free attorneys and still felt entitled to more. And when the judge put a kibosh to it, she had the nerve to be shocked. Like, ma'am, did you think you were going to get an endless supply until you found your bestie?
Yeah,
and the way she treated people, like looking at the notes and the way that she spoke to the attorneys, and then she was like, I don't know why they quit. Well, they had to, because you said they were unethical, they were liars. So that conviction is not going to hold up. Like, you have to get a new lawyer now. You're basically saying they're not fit for their job. They're not fit for their station. So that part I don't get, instead of being like grateful. But I guess you have to have that perspective of like other places in the world and what's going on, instead of going like, thank God I'm in the US court system and this is going to be afforded to me. I want to take full advantage of it. They're pretending like they've pulled out their platinum card and are like paying for all these attorneys and get some more,
Yeah, I do know. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And I went on a rant a couple weeks ago about how the families of the defendants need to shut up and stay out of it. They're making things harder for us. They don't understand. They think that if you're talking to another person in the county jail and you're listening to that guy who's in the county jail with
where you are in the same situation,
right, rather than your attorney, who went to law school, or in my case, your investigator that went to law school.
Yeah.
Then I can't. And to say you weren't prepared or you didn't, and the attorney just won the argument. What is it that you think that you could do this job better? Right? Like,
yeah.
I can't. Which,
I think they watch too much TV, and then they also have friends who are like, oh, that's a bad deal, whether they're on the inside or the outside, because they saw something on like Law and Order. Do you know? Like, it's not grounded in reality. You made a mistake. You need to be held accountable. Or you like intentionally did something wrong. You need to be held accountable. It's just, it's unfortunate. I think it's especially like the younger kids. It just seems like their sense of entitlement and justice is very warped.
Yeah, the entitlement is insane. We talk about that all the time. The entitlement is off the charts.
Yeah.
I believe in helping the system to run smoothly, right? So we know that the state has kind of like endless resources of the prosecution. Here I call it the state because it's the state's attorney. Whereas on my side, even though the state of Florida is still paying for the defense for indigent people, the resources are not the same,
right?
And I'm just here to be a piece of the system, because I think everybody deserves their due process. It's the way it's meant to work, but I don't have to take abuse for it,
nor should you, nor should they expect you to. Like, you're a human being, like, you're doing your job. They shouldn't be attempting to abuse you.
Yeah, I can't figure out though if it's just happened because like we have such easy access to people now, because it seems like in the 80s or the 90s, like you wouldn't have been doing that.
Right. The text messaging and the cell phones and the other thing, it does make people very accessible, and it sometimes brings a casualness to it that wouldn't have been there had you had to wait for office hours, or you got a voicemail. Do you know, like an old school voicemail with a tape and the person doesn't hear it till the next day?
Right.
Now people are like, it annoys me because I tell people texts are not linear. I may not see your text. I may not get back to you right away. I just can't. But people are like expecting you to have your phone in your hand and responding in like X amount of minutes. Like, you don't have anything else going on in the world. Like, what if I'm in the shower?
Right. I text you at the crack of dawn because I know there's a chance once in a while you're up.
Yes.
So there, I will send messages because I'm scattered, and if I don't send it, I'm gonna forget it.
Same.
But I also assume that like you have your phone on the appropriate settings,
Right.
and I'm not gonna call you repeatedly at 4:30 a.m. to say something ridiculous, right?
Right. And you've never said like, what took you so long to text me back? You know what I mean? Like it's okay.
Yes, Ohio Palm Mom, if the criminals were smarter, they wouldn't be in jail. And thank you, Amy Crew. Yeah, I'm trying to I need to do my job. It's how I earn a living. My goodness. I feel like you're a name I haven't seen in a hot minute. Welcome. I just feel like I can do my job without trying to be like an ally or a friend, because I just don't understand. It's too much. It's just too much.
Yeah. And I think also sometimes, even without being a friend, a lot of younger people mistake being cordial with them for being like a friend. Like it's a professional relationship.
Right.
And you have to have like those boundaries. And so I think that's why they're flipped with like, oh, I don't want that deal. Like there's something, the gravity of it is not like weighing on them.
That's a really good, yeah. There's like no perspective, I guess. There's no context for them. And I don't understand that. But then I have to think about, okay, well, their worlds did get turned upside down by a pandemic, like in the middle of their formative years. Does that have an effect? Like, you and I did not have that going, the biggest disaster I remember was the Challenger space shuttle, and they just turned off the TV and pushed us out the door.
Yeah. And that was high school for me. It was like, yeah, I remember that. But it wasn't, yeah. I didn't think about that, but yeah, the pandemic in there. Yeah, that could be.
Yeah, I just don't know what it is. It's just I don't know if they're not seeing any boundaries, if people aren't teaching them respect. I don't know what it is, but the parents of these juveniles are just as bad as the juveniles in terms of how they treat us, and it's just exhausting. It's just exhausting.
It sounds like some of the parents also are a little delusional, right? Like the one
100%.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
So they're not helping manage the expectations, which makes like that creates a whole other block that a hurdle that you've got to hop over.
They are in so much denial, and my baby doesn't deserve to be in jail for 20 years, and it's like, well, oh, you realize that I have photographs of your baby, with the Glock and the money and the drugs and, the things. Like, I have that exists. That's real. That's illegal. Like, they can't be doing that.
Do they think they're going to talk their way out of it to the jury? Like, what's the rationale when they're just, it's not just because it's your baby. Like, the legal system doesn't care. It's the evidence and the facts. Like, how do they out-talk that or overcome that?
The police were targeting him. Okay, yeah, because he's broken into 50 cars over the course of the last 6 weeks. He's on their radar 100%. Are they watching? Yeah.
Yeah, he's a known.
Want to stop the burglaries of the cars where you're stealing guns and then using the guns in other robberies. It's just like, you ask the kid, why'd you do that? I don't know. I'm just bored. Okay, so you're bored enough to go steal a car, then go try the handles of 50 different cars, take whatever you find inside those cars, including guns. People don't leave your guns in your cars and leave them unlocked, but don't leave your guns in your cars. And then if they take the gun and they go to a garage that's attached to a house, then that's a higher level of a crime, because now you're burglary of an occupied dwelling versus burglary of an unoccupied conveyance. I probably screwed some words up there, but there's differences, right?
Right.
Like if there's an empty car parked on the street, That's
no
an
one is at risk.
right.
Right.
Versus
Unoccupied.
right. Yeah, it's crazy. It's just crazy. I'm like I feel like I'm ancient because I don't understand. I used to have like a knack with teenagers, right? But now I just don't understand. Like I just don't.
Yeah. I think it has a lot to do with their raise. Like, as we would say back home, no home training. Some of them don't have any home training.
I think a lot of them don't because they're just stacking up, I went to another attorney's office the other day to pick up a hard drive full of evidence, discovery, data, whatever. And I have to go back out to a county jail in a different county and see a 14-year-old who on Christmas Eve shot his sister and his brother shot him, and they were arguing over Christmas gifts. And I said to this kid, I'm like, did you love your sister? And he was like, yeah, she was my face. She was like my person or whatever. Or she like raised me. And I'm like, do you understand that you're 14 years old? You've been here for a year. That like she's dead and gone.
Never coming back. Is it the video games? Like they just think
I don't know.
they get 5 lives?
I don't know. I wonder to some extent if that's part of it. I don't understand. I just don't. I have a hard time. And you are a strong woman because you have a almost 2-year-old and you're about to have another one. I don't know how you do it.
I have the benefit of age and patience and money, so that helps.
That does help.
Yes.
I have the age, no patience, and no money. So it's good that I just have the cat,
Henry's his name, right?
Yeah. Hi, JD. Welcome. I don't know you, but it looks like some of my other folks do. It's good to see so many of you guys. I see a lot of familiar names. I'm so glad you're here with us. If you would like to, so I'm premiering a recorded video tomorrow. It was bumpy. I didn't edit it. It's going up. I don't even know what time. Hold on. Let me go back to I did a recorded interview. Tired. I did a recorded video about the use of the words mercy and moral and reasonable doubt, because one of the trials recently talked about a mercy phase, and Karen Reed's jury instructions talk about moral certainty. So I had some issues I wanted to talk about. I didn't want to add it in here. So
I see it scheduled tomorrow, 7:15. Khalif Browder.
Khalif Brown.
No, Khalif.
So Khalif is going to be on Tuesday. So premiere Judging the Jury Part 4 is tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then the Khalif Browder group watch. So we did episode 1 on Wednesday. Tuesday's going to be episode 2. It's not streaming. I'm doing it via Google Meet. I got around the copyright, folks. By doing it the way I'm doing it, you have to go into my Patreon and be a member. You don't have to pay any money, but that's how you get access. Yes, I would like to know if any of you guys have further questions about the death penalty, because there's more information out there. I can do more on it. And I would like to know, Tanika, what you're planning for the coming week and onward.
I'm going to cover some interrogations on the Adelson case as well as on the Gardner case. And then I'm going to record more of the text messages. I had to take a break because I was a little flimmy, if you will. And so I'm going to cover that. But I will definitely jump in for that. I will say there's a link in there for your Patreon. And also, I don't know if you saw, I think it was either Barry or Larry who is volunteering to talk about his jury
Yeah,
experience.
it's Larry
You saw that?
Powers.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Larry Powers. I see him. And he was on a jury for a murder trial, Texas v. Anthony Bowden. So, yeah, what I want to know is, do you guys, so we're still kind of like in juries. Do you want further information, like how an attorney in Florida becomes death qualified to be, on the death list? Do you want to know more information, or are you good and I can move on to other things? Like I said, we're in the middle of the jury series, but I was also in the middle of I think we're coming back to judges, because the Karen Reed saga just keeps giving. It just keeps giving and giving on the prosecutorial misconduct and the judicial bite. I mean, there's just so many of
There's
the
a
things.
lot. There's a lot.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the judges because, in the lawyers, because I like to docket watch. And so when I saw that, like their notice of appearance and they're asserting that they're death qualified, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, how do you do that? Is it more money? Is it just like
they pay? So a murder case, first degree murder case, $25,000 is the JAC rate.
No matter how long it is. Oh.
But so there's a way you get around that, though. There's a way to get around that. But that is their base. That's what they want to give you.
Wow.
Yeah. For first degree. Isn't that crazy?
It is, and especially when the clients are treating people like crap. That's wow.
Or you've got a case like the guy that's been sitting in county since 2018 and will go to trial in December, hopefully, finally. And he is one that was set to go to trial right when the legislature changed the law from 12 to 8. And so penalty counsel filed appeals immediately, and then went up to our district court of appeals, which here is the second DCA, but it was already being argued like in front of the Florida Supreme Court, who of course decided it was all fine and good, and no, he wouldn't be eligible to have 12 jurors unanimous. He would fall under the 8. So like you hear the Wade Wilson people saying, oh, it's going to be overturned because he committed his crime and was charged before this. No. Sub Rosa left her touch DNA on the like button, and that or latent print will do really fine. I appreciate that so much. Barry Adams wants to know how attorney gets qualified and jurors' experience and the judges. Mel wants to know all the info. Amy Cruz has a Karen Reed documentary on IDTV this week. Oh Lord, no. And she is speaking on camera. Let's see. Barry says, Tanika's 2 cents. You did that Sullivan Waterbury case. I'm in Connecticut and hit your radar as fast as it hit mine. It was a shock. Sir.
Henry.
Take your fluffiness elsewhere. The clients who treat their team like crap is one thing. It denigrates the patient. Clients who do what they're asked and aren't extra and things like that. Okay. I think criminal profiler Pat Brown has good ideas about professional jurors. Oh, jury of our peers. That is something I want to talk about because I'm not done with my jury series. And I want to talk about jury of your peers. So if you are a 14-year-old Black kid, what does a jury of your peers look like? Because I don't think it's the 12 people sitting across from you.
Right. Oof.
Yeah.
Colin
really,
Griffin bothered me. Yeah.
What did Colin Griffin do?
If this is the case I'm thinking of, he unalived his father in one of the southern states like Texas, and he was acquitted of that. And then they came to Florida and he unalived his mom and he walked free. They weren't allowed to say that he had killed or that he had unalived his father. They were saying that he unalived some person and he walked free.
I was stunned that they found him not guilty. I was shocked. Yeah. The other case, I don't know who that was. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, Colin Griffin is scary.
I think of your peers is more of the people or of the community, right? It's not.
But I think that's from a standard from a long time ago. I mean, the Massachusetts jury instructions are from the 1800s. Did you know that? I now know that. If you want to find out more about that, watch my premiere tomorrow.
Okay,
at
I'm there.
7:15. It's not very long. It's only like 27 minutes or something.
Okay.
But Massachusetts standard jury instructions are from the 1800s.
Wow.
That's crazy, right?
So then any person of color or a woman would not have had a jury of their peers, right? Because I think only men were allowed to be at that point.
Yeah, I mean, but they're using
white
the same
men
language.
specifically, yeah.
They're using the same language as they did then. So I did the video is on what reasonable doubt is in jury instructions, and we're looking at it through Murdaugh and through Karen Reed, because there's a lot of similarities between them. Small communities, right? Connected law enforcement. The state law enforcement came in and did the investigation because of conflicts, both SLED and the state in Massachusetts. So I picked out, I picked out like there were lines of similarities, right, that we could compare them to. And then I really honed in on the reasonable doubt instruction. Can you tell me what reasonable doubt is?
Me specific? Oh. Oh God. I don't know. I think if it is if I've got to do mental gymnastics to make it make sense, like in the Charles Adelson case and the extortion, then I felt the state had proved it beyond a reasonable doubt. What he said was too far-fetched. There had to be too many coincidences. What were the odds? Like, what were the odds that his mom just happened to be in the neighborhood when the state's evidence witness said that's when the money got dropped? But mom is saying that's not why I was there, or I didn't stop by his house.
Right. So it's an interesting question. And oddly, South Carolina, well, no, I shouldn't say oddly, but the South Carolina jury instructions are a lot more straightforward and clear than the Massachusetts one are. Like Bev's instructions to the jury. So I took both, right? I took Newman's for Murdaugh and Bev's for Reed. And I put them in a Word document. And I gave them both the same font size, the same spacing, the same everything. I think South Carolina's came out to like 13 pages, and the Commonwealth's were twice that.
And I feel like they were less clear, at least from what I heard of them.
They were so wordy and so not clear. And yeah, it's I don't know. It was pieces of this that I found interesting that maybe people didn't want to see on a live stream. So if you've got 27 minutes to spare,
right,
you can watch me stumble through my first video, and Henry chases something inside during the whole thing, and
I think it's good to have a mix too, because sometimes like I'll be on the rewatch crew for the lives, like if I'm doing things around the house, but sometimes I want to like sit down and focus and get in and get out. So I like that you're doing the mix.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to create a schedule. There's going to be like actual recorded content. I'm trying to do the Khalif Browder thing. So what we're doing on that's a 6-part docuseries. Each episode's about 45 minutes. So I'm basically doing it as though I'm doing it on Zoom. I'm just doing it through Google. Okay. So you come to my Google Meet. I share my screen. We watch the episode. My YouTube chat is open, but then as soon as the episode's over, I go live on YouTube to talk about it. So we only had like 7 people, but it worked. Like my main concern was like with the technology situation, like could I get it, all the pieces to work? It's not the most simple thing ever, but it worked. So, and it's a really good documentary and terrifying too. So I'm doing that and working on following some different cases. We had a case I wanted to follow, and then we found out that like there was a lot of political connectedness to it, and that I didn't want to be sued. So
smart move, always a smart choice.
I'm kind of judgment proof, but because I don't have anything for anything.
They might take Henry. Don't risk it.
You need a job, sir. He really does. So yeah, yeah. I hope more people come around to watch Khalif, because it's just such a fascinating story, and I can't put it up for rewatch because it's a Netflix series. You know, I can't stream it on YouTube. I can't put it to where you guys can rewatch it. I can provide you a time and a place to watch it with me, or else you're going to have to get yourself a free trial of Netflix. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't know. But you've got Donna Adelson going on. You're still following Sarah, who's got, is her divorce case on March 26th?
It's a like a trial conference, pre-trial conference, but yeah, at 9:30. I think I'll follow it through. I'm curious if she will receive alimony. I feel like her former husband is going to file a motion to sever her parental rights, and I think the text message are going to be part of that evidence. And so yeah, I just want to see it through. And I've asked my members, do they still want the text, because before I even got them, and they're like, yeah, we're still interested in Sarah. So if people are still interested and there's still content, I'll do it. But like, I'm liking digging into the Adelson case, just like for intellectual challenges and finding out like what's where and who's, I want them to get windy. And so I'm like, will this be the nail? So we'll see. Yeah. And then the Gardner case, not a lot of people are covering that one, but I really like his widow, Kirsten. She's got a lot of chutzpah. She's suing all of the what are they called? Defendants in it for wrongful death and fighting for her kids. You know, she suspected it was Shayna from the very beginning. And so she's glad that she got convicted. She's a very smart woman. So I like her. And so I want to see justice for her and her kids, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. People seem to really like your text. What are you doing, Henry? Besides, he just knocked my whole self and unplugged me. Colleen K, what's it called on Netflix? It's called Time, Time, the Khalif Browder story. And it actually happened. He would have been 30 by now. It's just crazy.
Oh.
It happened in 2010 or 2011. I think everybody should watch the Khalif Browder. Yeah, Ginny put it here. Everybody should watch it because it will open your eyes and you will be stunned and shocked and befuddled and upset. But like, I had no idea. About what could happen if you can't afford your bail.
Right.
And he didn't commit a crime.
It defies logic because I like to say don't do crimes, but he didn't. And then he still suffered. Yeah.
He didn't do a crime. So they said in the first episode, the crime was that you couldn't pay your bail. He had 300 court dates.
Yikes.
In 2 years. So it's not a happy story, but it's one that I really, really, really want people to see, because I just think it's important that we know what's happening outside of our own little bubbles, you know, and our circles. Because as I've said many a time, I don't know that I could come up with $2,000 to bail me out of jail. I just don't have that. You know, I get paid when I invoice. There are no benefits to being me. You know, there's nothing here. I don't have.
Well, I think for anybody to come up with $2,000, like first you've got to be liquid. A lot of people are living off of credit. I think his mother had other children. She certainly had to have housing and other things, feed them.
She was a foster mom who over time fostered 30 kids. But if you have a sibling, this happened in New York. So she had one of his siblings. She ended up with all three. There were three. Yeah. So when he was born, he immediately went to his mom, into his
foster mom.
Wow. Who already had like his brother
Oh, wow.
And maybe a sister. Yeah, there were 3 of them that she had.
Wow.
It's just crazy.
It's a great reminder, too, that you're innocent until proven guilty and that there should be a fair process to getting to trial. The fact that he never even got to trial and yet was serving all of that time is, like, I guess, did he waive speedy trial? It just is mind-blowing to me.
I don't know. He refused to plea. So
Right.
what they were saying is, if you want to go home because Rikers is horrible, you just say you're guilty whether you are or not. And he just says, I'm not going to say I'm guilty of something I didn't do. And I mean, there were issues from the get-go, you know, which is like the victim said it was a robbery on this day, or maybe it was a robbery 2 weeks later. I mean, it was compiling, but it's like you're helpless,
right?
You know,
and that is like specific to your socioeconomic status, right? Like if his mom worked on Wall Street and had like some stock she could have cashed out and got, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
he was trapped by his circumstances.
But I would be too. Like, I think about Karen Reed, right? She's not sitting in jail waiting trial, but she's educated. I mean, I don't care if you like her or don't like her. But for me, that shouldn't matter.
Yeah,
anyway.
We're just talking about the facts of the statistics.
But you know, you've got this well-educated white lady with a lot of freaking money in Massachusetts, and look at what has happened to her. Right?
Yeah, it's like they're trying to break her, because I feel like I don't know why they haven't dismissed that case. It's ridiculous.
Oh, it's beyond ridiculous at this point. But the thing is, if by looking at Karen Reed, I don't have the means Karen Reed had. You know, I don't. You know, she's lucky that she could afford what she was able to at the, you know, they're now doing it for free, I guess. But but if, let's say I got picked up for something, I don't leave the house, so I don't know what they'd pick me up for. But, you know, if the bond were too high, I'm not going anywhere except to sit in the county jail. And then what happens? Henry starves to death. They take my apartment, they take my car, and now I'm homeless and I have no cat.
Oh, someone would come and get Henry. We'd have him waiting for you. Yeah, good Lord. It's scary. It's very scary.
Yeah, it just is, you know, and I just wanted, I wanted my job in this system just to be a part of making it fair, you know?
Right.
Because I feel like people are trying to hide things and there are a lot of shenanigans going on. And so, yeah, if you did the crime, you're going to do the time, but at least have the process of it be what it was meant to be.
Right. I think that's why your work is so important. It is giving people a fair shot. It just annoys me that some of those people don't appreciate that
most of those people don't appreciate it.
It's mind-boggling to me.
And I'm exhausted by it. And I'm to a point where I don't want to do it anymore. But I don't know what
you're doing the Lord's work. You're doing the Lord's work. Oh my goodness. Well, there's like a what is it, a diamond in the rough in there somewhere that appreciates what you're doing and is better off for you having done it.
Maybe. I hope so. What are you on the Adelsons, and you've got a little bit of Boone left in you, and you've got this the
Jared Bridegan case. Yeah, I just say it because there's 3 defendants. Yeah.
Right. And when is that case going to go to trial? Like, when is it Shanna that you're waiting to go on trial?
Yes. But it's not like I'm tracking Tenon because he tried to flip-flop on being state's evidence. And then now he's back in it. He's got a hearing in April. So I'm trying to because I feel like it makes, for me, I'm going to try to watch it. It makes it more exciting if I understand how the motions played out. And oh, that's why that came in, or, oh, that didn't come in because of this, or I just like that. Like in the Sarah Boone case, for example, Melissa didn't come in as a witness because she would have been called out for lying about George being off the lease, right? Sarah said it on the stand, but if Melissa would have gotten up there, they would have outed that, and that would have been a bigger deal. So I think because she was the only witness in the complex, that would have been favorable to her. But I feel like if you don't follow the evidence and the motions, some of that doesn't. I mean, it's just a thing I like. I'm a nerd. I like to see it all play out and come together. And because there's so much strategy involved, right? It's not just what happens during the trial. It's like what game of chess was played prior.
Before. That's why I'm here, is to talk about what happens between, after the arrest, but before the trial.
Yes.
That's all the information that is surrounding me all the time.
That's why I think your job is so cool. Like, you would get to be a part of all of that. Yeah. It's
a lot. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of people lying. It's a lot of people disappearing, changing stories. One of the things that blows me away right now about watching these trials or watching people in chat is they don't want to listen to the cell phone or the forensics expert, the digital forensics, and that's what's convicting people.
Right.
Those are the people you should be paying attention to.
Right.
For a number of reasons, including you maybe accidentally are picked up because you're in an area and your phone connected somewhere at a certain time,
or your fitness watch connected somewhere at a certain time.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's all of these pieces. Like, we give up so much of our identity unwittingly for the technology. And so, just don't commit crimes. But so I like all of that. And what comes into the trial, I mean, I feel like what stays out is just as important as what comes in. Like, people are getting mad.
Huge fight about that.
There's
like a huge fight.
Yeah. And then sometimes people are like, oh, if I were on the jury, I would have wanted to know that. But the judge kept it out because it was more prejudicial. And so I just love all those moves going into it.
Well, there's rules of evidence. Like, people don't understand that they're like literally, you take an entire course on evidence. It's hard. Hearsay alone and the exceptions to hearsay will give you a migraine. I mean, I don't know if they're still doing it, but like here, the last time I had, actually the last trial, I didn't see it, but there's these big rules of court books, like they're huge, that are sitting on both the prosecution and the defense and even the judge. Because like, you can't be expected to remember all the freaking rules of all the things, especially the rules of evidence, and especially the rule of the hearsay, which is exceptions to the exception to the exception. And it's like, wait, who, what?
I only know the party opponent exception.
There's a lot of hearsay exceptions. There was the present sense and excited utterance and, oh my God, there's so many rules, and people don't understand that there's case law and then there's also rules. There's rules of criminal procedure. There's rules of judicial procedure. There are guidelines to things, and people just don't understand it. Yeah. So I thought it would be cool to tell people about what the discovery looks like and what does a defense investigation look like, to the extent that anything can be investigated. Sometimes I get it so far down the line that I'm just an analyst. I'm reading and looking for inconsistencies and things, and that doesn't necessarily mean those inconsistencies will turn into or keep something out of.
Right. I'm always curious as like what didn't come in. We don't get to see that of the discovery part of like, we're already to the part where they're accepting it and there's usually no objections, or they're objecting on the record, but it's still getting entered. But I would love to know like what those discussions are going in and fighting to keep things out. Some of it I'm seeing more in like as they televise like motion and limines. I feel like that's getting more.
That's where it is.
Yeah.
So it's the motion and limines. That is the fight, right? The fight that the state wants usually to keep something in and the defense wants to keep something out. Yes, Colleen, I sit at the defense table unless there's too many attorneys, but they usually will wedge me in there somewhere. The fight is in the trackable fight, I guess I should say, is in the motions in limine. So, there are conversations that go on behind the scenes that are like, hey, are you going to use this? And if the state says no, then there's no fight about it. Right.
Right.
So there's conversations just like there is actual motions. People are outraged by the photographs. Do you know how many photographs do not ever make it in?
I can
I
only
go through
imagine.
hundreds. I have hundreds of photos, hundreds. And then I have body cam, and I have dash cam, and then I have surveillance cam, and I've got whatever there's on their phones. There is so much, and the
Yeah.
jury is never going to see a quarter of what's out there. I mean, there's just so much, and the jury doesn't see a lot, and YouTube does not remember that they actually get to see more than the jury does. And then they, the YouTube chatters can get very irate and have very strong opinions and be mad with juries, and okay, but the jury does not know what you know.
Right.
That's the whole point.
Right. There are some YouTube lawyers that will take it from the jury perspective so they don't track it like the way that I obsess over it, and they only hear what's coming in.
Yeah, I know Emily does that on some cases. I think Melanie Little does that on some cases. There are a lot of great YouTube lawyers, that do a great job of explaining, explaining everything that goes on in the courtroom. Colleen, so I am a licensed private investigator in the state of Florida, but I went to law school. So I have a JD, the Juris Doctor degree. I'm not licensed to practice law. What I do is, for example, I worked on Sarah Boone's case, and I worked on extentacion. I can never say that. I have my own agency, and it just means I have a specific kind of license. And the Justice Administration Commission in Florida, the JAC, pays for indigent defense in the state of Florida. So by the time a person, if you get arrested and you conflict off the public defender, then you go to Office of Regional Conflict Counsel. If you conflict out of there, you go to a private defense attorney who has a contract with the JAC. When you get to that point, I'm a contract vendor for the JAC, which means that the court-appointed defense attorney can then hire me through a court order. They have to say, motion for private investigator approved for so much money on such and such case. The JAC has to say okay, and the judge has to say okay, and then they give me a bunch of hours and a bunch of information, and that's what I do. I investigate the investigations to an extent, because really and truly there's not a whole lot of in some cases there's still stuff to be investigated, but for the most part not so much. So yeah, that's what I do. All right, well, thank you so much. I know you're sick and you've got sugar bear, and thank you for coming on again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for answering the questions. I'm definitely going to take it back to the lovelies. This gives me great context as I go delve further into the Jared Bridegan case. So thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm still not completely finished with juries. I think we're probably going to have at least one more stream. And like I said, I've got the reasonable doubt instruction video that you can just put on and play. Hope you find it interesting. I've said this before in my streams, I'm not editing, guys, because if I edit, then this channel will disappear. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to be learning. It's okay to be messy, right? We're working on it. Mel says there are a lot of YouTubers that don't know what they're talking about. It's about the defendant being all bad and showing major bias. They thrive in the chaos and not making sure the truth. That's what brought me here, Mel. That is really...
I don't like chaos. I don't thrive in chaos, so I do try to avoid that.
I don't like the extreme bias. Doesn't mean I approve of the defendants or their crimes, but like, I don't... Here's my thing. I don't want people in my chat to hate on anybody or anything, because I feel like it creates a spiral and an acceptance of hate in general. And I don't want there to be hate on my channel. Like, there's just no hate. If you've got hate, move on to the next person, you know? Like, I get enough of it in my daily life.
And life is too short.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Well, thank you so much for coming back. Chat or rewatch. Please leave a comment if you want to see more. I think I have one more stream for juries. Like, we already have the research for it pulled together and everything. So, but leave any questions you have, please. And don't forget to go and hear Tanika's 2 cents on all things. I don't know what to say. Florida, Utah.
Just come over and have a good
Come over
time.
and hang
Yes.
out. It's really fun.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Thanks
It's
for
really
having
fun.
me.
Thanks for coming back, and congratulations again on Sweet Pea.
Thank
We
you.
look forward to meeting.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Good night. Thank you so much.
Yeah.